Sit wherever we are, I guess.
Hello, everyone. I want to extend a warm good afternoon to all of you to our section for today, titled Transformative Partnership for Sustainable Agriculture. I can see that the room is already filled up and there are no more chairs, but we'll try to make it very easy on all of us and also very enjoyable and very interactive. And we are really looking forward to your participation and your contribution to this section as part of our science program. So for the first section, we'll be having a panel, and then that panel would talk about a few things, which includes scaling and also for partnership. Then we'll move into a presentation mode where we'll have two different thematic topics, which would zoom in into specific topics. Then we'll be having a break in between, and just to make sure we get in some fresh air. Then we'll have a panel section as well. So we want to start off warming the room a bit. And in case you don't know me, my name is Jonathan Mock. And I'm also ready to take a selfie with everyone, although I'm not very popular yet. All right, so we want to start with some quick reflections, and that would help us through our Menti. And what I want you to do is either use Can. So get your phones ready. So 4, 3, 1. You all have it ready? Next slide. So in one word, what does partnership mean to you? In one word, just one. Trust, collaboration, collective action, cooperation, growing impact, radical collaboration. Who said that? Radical collaboration. Scaling. All right, collaboration, togetherness, cooperation. I see co-creation. So it means collaboration, co-creation, cooperation, togetherness, trust, fairness, social capital, and many others. So I'm going to pick someone. If we say collaboration, well, can you just expand on it a bit? Who will want to volunteer? Collaboration. All right, mention your name and.
Use the mic. Hi, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Mahlatsinkosi. I'm from IMI. And when I think of collaboration, it's working together for mutual benefit.
Working together for mutual benefit. Great. Any other additional idea? I think that sums it very well. Let's move on to the next. So what is the biggest ingredient for successful collaboration? It's like you are preparing what we say in Colombia, sancocho. What's the biggest ingredient? When you finish, you can look up sancocho. Shared vision, trust, communication, flexibility, resources. So shared vision. Great. So share vision. And what does share vision mean when it comes to partnership? Anyone to expand on that? There is no wrong or right answer. Shared vision. Any volunteer? All right, then I'm going to pick someone. All right. Shared vision.
Okay, I think when we talk of shared vision, it means that people having the same goals or same insights, and they want to do something that it's similar. So they come together and maybe collaborate and talk about the same vision, and they can execute what they want to do.
Great. Absolutely. I love that.
Thank you.
So in that case, 1 + 1 can be 3, right? And that's where the partnership comes in. Great. Thank you. Next slide. What sector do you represent? Whoa, there looks to be some sort of self-selection here. All right. The researchers can do some research on that. Wow, I'm very happy I can see a lot from the private sector. Farm organization. We need to do better. All right. So we need to do better with farm organization. Maybe I need to become a farmer. Next slide. So what change do you want to see for a partnership to be successful? Consistency. So consistency, mutual respect, sharing information, mutual benefit, skill, mutual values, trust, remove rigidity, resource mobilization, co-creation. Can we scroll a bit more and see what's down? It's not going. Okay. We'll figure it out. Okay.
Wow, AI right there.
Very good. Super. So leadership, trust, information sharing, mutual respect. Among these four, which one is most relevant to you? Any volunteer? And why? All right, I'm going to pick. Mr. So which of them is of relevant to you? And why?
I think to me the mutual respect.
And why?
Mutual respect, because every partner has a responsibility, and for you to execute that responsibility, there must be mutual respect amongst the partners.
Great. I love that. That's awesome. And that's also where partnership comes in and probably co-benefit and sharing the benefits together and equal partnership as well. Next question. That's it. All right. Great. Okay. So this was just to warm up the room a bit and to also see exactly what we want to do. Also see a bit from you in terms of the different dimensions, how you as the audience think about these key questions. Now we are going to start with the first thematic topic. And that thematic topic focuses on partnership for policy and enabling environments. And for this, we are going to have 4 different speakers who will be part of a panel. And I'm going to mention their name. We wanted to get some chairs for them, but the room is very filled up. So they will be sitting where they are, and they will be making their contributions from their seat. And the first person we have is Idil, who is from IUMI, International Water. All right, the applause came. And then the second is Mulekan. Mara. And all right. And then Akadi. So I want to say a warm welcome to you once again. And we are going to start off with a few questions. And then based on those questions, we'll have a first round. And after that, you have the option to also tell us in few words what you think is your key highlight for partnership for creating an enabling environment. So I want to start off with Manohara. And my first question is, how does innovative partnership look like in CG Nexus Games initiative? And the focal time is from 2022 to 2024, and particularly for Nepal or other countries that you've been working in.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Donathan. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon again. My name is Manwara Khadka. I work for IMI as a country representative for Nepal, IMI Nepal. It's my pleasure to share the Nepal insight and lesson from our partnership in one of the initiative called Nexus Gains. It was 2022-24. Like our partnership, it was very much collaborative. It's not. partnership with the Nexus Gains, one of the CGIAR initiative that we launched in 2022, and yeah, it was a 3-year project. It was very much, I am going to highlight the partnership for impact, especially creating enabling environment, and also the role of this initiative to really generate the evidences, and based on the evidences, how these evidences and Nexus thinking is integrated in the policy. So Nexus Gain initiative was, as I said, one of the outcome. This project or initiative has one outcome that was creating enabling environment, especially enabling policymaker, other stakeholders, including civil society, private sector, research institute, to increase awareness of water, energy, food ecosystem approaches, and also develop this Nexus water, energy, food ecosystem Nexus thinking in a policy. So as we know that water really is a system connector, water connect to the food system, energy system, and also water is the key to the food system, and also ecosystem and biodiversity. But when you talk about the system, there is always a challenge for working in a silo. Those actors who are in the system work in a very much siloed way. They are not talking to each other. They are not talking to collaborate to each other. So all this Nexus Gain initiative, one of the approach was to develop the understanding and also narrative, how to build on this thinking into the policy. So with this, our partnership approach was very much multi-actor, like a government, private sector, research institute, civil society, and then these all sector partner, we through the working, I will come to the next question, but what was the impact of this, the partnership model, bringing multi-actor in the same table to discuss about the issues and find out the solution, especially integrating the Nexus perspective into the national policy, for example. Because of 3-year exercise, what we achievement of the partnership was integration of Nexus, water, energy, food ecosystem Nexus perspective into the national irrigation policy 2023. And also the Nexus approach was very much discussed within the level of lawmakers of this discussion and also sensitization dialogue on Nexus approach. There is also very much strong provision in the draft water resource bill that is under the parliamentary discussion and also approval process. That water resource bill clearly talk about the importance of Nexus thinking, and also the role of water as a system connector to ensure the food security, nutrition security, and water security, energy security, and also ensuring the ecosystem conservation. So through the very much collaborative, very much co-design, co-design, co-learning approach, we're able to, the partner were able to understand the need for Nexus thinking and also able to integrate this perspective in a national policy. Now there is an enabling environment already in policy. Next step is how to implement this Nexus approach that is integrated into the national policy of irrigation. Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much, Manuara, for those insights. And some of the keywords that I speak is the Nexus approach, ecosystem, partnership, and also working with the partners to create an enabling environment. And I think that would relate to a question that I have for you, Mulakan. And that question is, how can innovative public-private partnership be leveraged to scale irrigation innovations and build climate-resilient agricultural systems for smallholders?
Yeah. Thanks, Jonathan. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mulukan. I'm a researcher at UMI. So I would like to give you kind of a brief experience that we had last year through Equamo Stove Initiative. So PPP, I think I would imagine most of you are very familiar with PPP. So I don't want to go into detail. The classical PPP, that's something that you already know, really. So like, for example, co-investment, risk sharing, bundle service business model, and so on and so on. This is really very classical PPP. That's really very textbook, right? So what I want to emphasize really for this in this panel is 3 important findings that we had from Ethiopia, right? The first one is it's not only PPP, particularly when you come to agribusinesses, it is about actually PPCP. That's what you came to. So public-private community partnership, right? So this is the first key findings that we had last year. It's not only about public and private. At the same time, we are working with the community, with the smallholder farmers. So we need to make sure that we are bringing them on board when you are developing the public-private partnership business model. And in particular, when we are working for related to agribusiness business model, these are the key findings really that we had. The first, and relating this, because this is really very important when you think of private sector, by the way, some of the community are like afraid something like this, it's a bit shocking for them. So really we need to make sure create those awareness among the community and farm householders what this PPP is about. This is the first thing. And the second aspect, when you think of PPP, let's not think of a specific really activity. For example, in terms of irrigation, let's not talk about only water, right? Let's talk about along the value chain. So because agribusinesses in countries like Ethiopia and Kenya, providing water by itself is not really attractive for the private sector to be engaged in. So we need to make sure that other forms of activities are actually aligned together with water provision. So it's about input provision, we have the water and also access to market, right? So we need to have this really a long value chain perspective when you think of public-private partnerships. This is the second point. The third point that I would like to emphasize, I'm happy that there are so many from the private sector here today, is about social responsibility from the private sector, right? Because we know that we need the private sector to come on board, right? We know that they have to make a profit, obviously, but what we need is a socially responsible private sector for the public-private partnership to be successful. Otherwise, most of the time, it's easy to talk about enabling environment and then to put our fingers in the government side in terms of lesser regulations, policy, and so on. Obviously, these things are really key, but at the same time, we need a private sector who is socially responsible for, for climate, for environment, or whatever ESGs that you can think of. Really, these are the three key messages that we had so far. I mean, this year we are starting to pilot those PPP business model in Ethiopia. And this is really our perception when we are piloting this model, looking along the value chain, make sure that the private sector is socially responsible. And at the same time, when we are creating those business model, we are making sure how and for whom we are developing those PPP business model, which means we need to create awareness among the communities or farmers how these business models are going to work. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mulakan, for those insights. And I see a new concept here, whether it's new or it's not new, but to me, it's quite new. PPPCP. PPPCP, right? So we have the private-public community partnership. Exactly. And I think the community there is very important. Thinking about responsible innovation, but also the business environment and inclusiveness. And I think that's extremely important. And you emphasize a lot also on agribusiness, which I think is very key for the private sector. So for planet, for profit, and for people, all the three coming together. I just heard that there is a very good comment online. So let's take that comment and then I'll come back to Idil and Akadi.
So the comment says in IFAD, we call it 4P approach, public-private producer partnership.
So there is another acronym in the house, right? So I'm sure Mulakan will digest that, but I'll come back to you. Keep thinking about that and how that can be some kind of bridge or synergy between PPCP and this one. All right, let's come back to Idil. And then from there, we'll come to Akedia for a specific example on ICRA. So Idil, for you, in terms of this discussion, the question I have for you is, what is the scope and diversity of partnership approaches at UMI, especially drawing from the recent initiatives that you've participated in?
Thanks, Jonathan. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Idil Ires. I'm a researcher in enabling environment based in Kenya since yesterday.
Karibu.
Asante. So at IMI, partnerships are central to how we deliver technical assistance and policy support. And our main activities are catered around 3 pillars that define the scope of our policy partnerships. The first one, and to a great extent, maybe the most important one, is that we deliver as one. We partner with regional and national policy research and advocacy organizations, and we try to understand what work, sometimes for decades, what work, policy work they've been working on, so that we play a complementary role. We add to their knowledge and other capacities. For example, under the recently ended Ukama Ustavi initiative, we founded a partnership platform called the East and Southern Africa Policy Hub, the ESA Policy Hub, where we had about 12 partners and their subsidiaries, and where we would regularly exchange through community of spirit. Nora will talk about that a bit later, but we would try to understand what work they've been doing and where they failed, what their success stories were, so that we plugged in there and we tried to support them. And the second pillar has been, of course, partnering with governments, such as ministries of agriculture and water, and providing them technical assistance. But in this pillar, we try to deliver technical assistance by working alongside governments, not as external advisors. And that's meant that we held regular meetings, and we tried to understand and learn from the past mistakes. And we try to understand their policy interests, but also national priorities. And through this process, we try to create a sense of co-ownership. In every organization's projects are for, say, 3 years, 8 years. It's always for a limited period of time, but it's very important for government partners, especially, to have a sense of ownership over the policy work that we are or have been doing. So this has been an area of focus for us, which ultimately translated into sustainability in our area of work. And finally, we partnered with private sector to help them or to equip them with the necessary tools to navigate through the enabling environment. Trying to influence the policy ecosystem is a very thankless thing. Failure is part of the job. So it is also very important for us to work with private sector to understand the enabling environment gaps and weaknesses from their perspective, and try to tailor solutions that could work for their business ecosystems. And these 3 pillars have been also in the center of Ukama Ustavi and other initiatives we worked on in the past. And we are also looking to carry some of these into new science programs, such as the Enabling Environment Lab under Scaling for Impact, and to some extent, Frontiers and Policy Innovations.
Great. You can clap, please. So Idil, that's really awesome. 3 pillars: research, private sector, and then government working together. And I really like the point you mentioned, understanding the bottlenecks that is taking place within the private sector ecosystem, and then developing our solutions. And I also like the continuity approach that we take this into our next science programs, the Enabling Environment Lab. You need to look out for that, Enabling Environment Lab. Great, thanks. So let's have the next question, and that would zoom into a specific program, ICRA. And Aikade can tell us a bit about you, what you do, ICRA. And then the question for you is, how do you approach partnership in the ICRA program?
Thank you very much. My name is Alkat Sayo. I'm a scientist at the Alliance of Biodiversity International in CIAT, and I co-lead the policy and institution for climate action within the Alliance. ACRA stands for Accelerating the Impact of CGIAR Climate Research for Africa. The objective is to make accessible and facilitate the use of climate smart agriculture, innovation and technology, and also enhance climate information services for Africa. Basically, the objective is to build partnership with both national but also regional institutions in Africa to scale CGIAR-led innovation that climate smart agriculture innovation, but also climate information services to benefit end users, which are smallholder farmers. ACRA is intentionally designed to bridge the gap between science and action, and in this particular case, climate action. So basically, this is what ACRA is, and we approach partnership using 5 key principles. The first principle is to partner with diverse strategic partners. We select our partner based on the theory of a change of a project, but also based on a thematic. For example, we work with NAS, who also co-developed the CSA, Climate Smart Agriculture Technology, but we also work with National Meteorological Services when it comes to climate information services. Second, we work with institutions which have complementary vision and objective with ACRA objectives. So we build a partnership with institutions that are also scaling innovation, existing institutions that are only scaling innovation. In West Africa, for example, we aim to build partnership with existing institutions and organizations that can help us to achieve outcomes that we cannot achieve by working with individual countries. Third, we have a collaborative arrangement with our partners. Usually we co-design the activity together. We are flexible with the activity to be implemented every year. We are kind of flexible with the objective we need to achieve, but we make room for the partner also to achieve their own outcome as well. Fourth is multi-level partnership approach. We have partnership at national level, at community level, but also at regional and also continental level, so that innovation that has been tested, validated within community level can inform intervention at regional, but also at continental level. And then third is deep trust, deep and trustful relationship. By working closely together with our partner, along the line, we build trust and we strengthen collaboration and relationship with all our partners across scale. So let me stop there.
Great, thank you. I think you are very much on point that I cannot summarize again. The 5 points is straightforward and it ticks all the boxes in terms of partnership and collaboration. And I think ACRA is a very good example on that. And what I really like is bridging the gap between science, innovation and action. And I think that's key. So let's move on to one burning question, which I think is very important and relates very much to the PPCP and what? PP?
4P.
The 4 Ps. Great, 4 Ps. And what I would like you to do, Mulakan, is to tell us a little bit about what you think is the synergy between the two. And particularly also if it's possible for you to relate that to irrigation and how we need to create an enabling environment and the key stakeholders that will be important in such an ecosystem with the 4 Ps and then the 2 PCP.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think, I like really the 4 Ps. So community and producer, I would say it's more or less similar. When you say community, it's just beyond producer. That's why I prefer the word community. It's not only like the producer, but also the other actors, including, for example, the cooperatives, the farmer associations, and so on, who are actively engaged in the public-private partnership. So just to come to your question, really, it depends how you approach basically the PPP business model, right? The example that the business model that we are piloting at the moment now, really, it depends how you are actually systematically approaching the key issues that you are about to work. The first thing from our experience, I think my colleague already mentioned that we are not just an external for this PPP, right? We are actually requested by the ministry to support them for public-private partnership. They have a draft strategy, right? And then we are requested to do the need assessment, the business model, and the piloting so that they could finalize this strategy. So for us, really, the issue of co-creation is a key component here to develop the whole PPP business model for smallholder irrigation in Ethiopia. That's the first component. The second component, which is very key for our approach, is how we do this PPP piloting in general and even the strategy itself. So, for example, we are not only working with the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Irrigation in Ethiopia, but on board we have also IFAD, World Bank, and other donors really who are trying to bring this agenda of PPP into their programs. So it's not kind of a single, product which is going to be implemented. So really, we are bringing everyone, almost the key stakeholders, right? The government is there, of course, obviously the private sector and the donors are there. So we are trying to bring these key stakeholders together, not only for this activity, but for related other big program and projects. Just as an example, let me tell you, we are piloting this PPP business model in Ethiopia this year. We are doing it with an IFAD program called PACT in Ethiopia. So you can see the synergies there. So it's not only about implementing, it's also about developing policies there and strategy. So we see really kind of a long-term sustainable really in this perspective. That's why it's important to bring everyone on board. Even the business models that we are developing, we have like 8 or 9 different business models, but we have selected only 2 of them just because these are really in line with the government's program, which are currently being implemented. That means by the time whether this project ends or not, the government we are sure that they will take over it because it's not about this specific project. So really, the way we approach it, it makes a difference whether to make this PPP business model sustainable or not. And I'll stop here.
Great. Thanks very much, Lakan, for that. And what I learned from this is really working with all the different partners, but embedding the solutions into a government program, but at the same time also into some form of development finance operations. So whether either the World Bank or IFAD, and really having the context for that and also being able to do that at scale. And I think that's where the impact is. Let's come back to another key question, which someone from the audience already sent me to ask, and this will be for Manora. In terms of the Nexus program, which approaches did you develop with the national system, particularly within the period of 2023, and also as part of the draft water resource bill 2024 in the case of Nepal?
Thank you, Jonathan, again. I think the outcome that came Nexus thinking to the national policy framework, it is very long process, very collaborative, very, participatory approach. From the day of this initiative design, the Nexus Gain initiative was co-designed with the involvement of the government partner, Ministry of Energy, Water Resource Irrigation, Department of Water Resource. Our joint secretary who championed this process also is here. So first is partnership approach, co-design with the partner on the project that aim to address or aim to have a outcome on inclusion of Nexus thinking in national policy, right? So even beyond that, the design 2021, we did online consultation across the sector, water, energy, food ecosystem sector, led by Ministry of Energy, Water Resource Irrigation, which was just this program. This is co-design. after the co-design, we did a launching of a program, Inception workshop. It was also not only the water ministry or water sector reactor, but all the sector who really is connected with the water and also food system, as I said, energy system. We did very multi-stakeholder approach in a Inception workshop. There also we discussed what the policy question that initiative, one of the component of policy, creating an ecosystem, enabling environment that project aim to do, right? So we did also exercise with the Inception workshop, identified who lead this process, who are the key actors to be involved in the whole policy process. And the third process was that after that, policy learning workshop, we did also learning workshop, bringing the policymaker, practitioner, investor, private sector people, and to understand basic idea of why there is a need for reducing the trade-off between the water, energy, food ecosystems system and also sector actor. How do we promote the synergy and collaboration to manage water and natural resources in a very holistic way or nexus way? So we did also a lot of capacity building at different level, the lawmaker level, policy maker level, sectoral lineages level, and also the university students and professional working in the water, energy, food sector. So there is a third aspect of, there was a dedicated effort on capacity building to enable the policymaker practitioner to understand nexus approach and also feed into this approach in the policy. So fourth approach was just all the time we have a discussion and dialogue using the multi-stakeholder approach. As I again remind that, because multi-stakeholder approach here means that not only the government from national and also sub-national and local level, and private sector of the sector, the water, energy, food, forest or environment sector, and also research university. So it was very much multi-stakeholder driven, co-design, and the collaborative approach and trusting. There is a huge trust from the government, and there is also need of research, right? So the addressing the need of national pride and government and also actor is very much important. Because of that, and there is a ownership also in the joint process, research process that we wanted to. One of the outcome is really including the nexus thinking in a policy narrative of water resources. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Manura, for those insights. And I see a lot of cross synergies between what you just mentioned and what Aked just also described. And I see trust. I also see multi-level governance, working both at the national level and sub-national level. And then also I see another linkage between what Mulakan also mentioned, co-creation. He said co-creation, but you said co-design and collaboration, which also came in our Menti. And then trust also came in our Menti. And I think working within the national system with all these mechanisms really makes our work very effective. So that's really a great example from Nepal. And in all this, what we want to achieve is outcomes and impact. And in this case, we want to have some specific examples from the case of ICRA. So Akedia, can you just mention a few examples how you are able to achieve some outcomes and impact?
Thank you very much for this question. Several outcomes, and we'll focus just on policy-related outcomes, since we are discussing about how partnership can help achieve policy and then enable environment as well. So we received a request for one of our partners, which is CORAF, the West Africa. Okay. We received a request from our partner to support them on a specific thematic foresight analysis, because it's a tool that has been identified in a very strategic document. And again, under ICRA, we are capacitating our partner on foresight. So we have shared objective, shared vision. So we support our partner and build a pool of experts that they call community of practice on foresight. So we build, a pool of experts on foresight, on tools and method to can use foresight to inform, for example, policy planning, planning in general in agricultural research. So after that, partner, there was a lot of requests also from ECOWAS. ECOWAS is the economic community of West African state. So usually when an outbreak happened, at that moment that was starting asking what to do. When I decided what to do, who to contact, who to reach out to be able to solve the problem. So this pool of experts, of course, facilitated by the alliance, and design a process, a policy development process to be able to develop what is called now regional plan for preparedness and respond to pest and disease outbreak that are driven by climate change in Western Central Africa. So it was a co-creation process. We use the expertise that we develop, and then we bring more CG-led science tools, to be able to design these policy document. And working together with other partners, we were able, the technical document were able to were validated and then officially launched by ECOWAS and also ECAS. ECAS is the Economic Community of Central African State. So it was a joint launch by two economic organization, policy organization at regional level, involving two regions. So a key message from this is an intervention that is responding to the needs and the objective of the partner can be successful, and along the way can evolve into trustful and long-term and sustainable relationship. Thanks.
Great. Many thanks, Acadia, for that also. And the key message I picked here is sharing the capacity, but also a shared objective with all the major players, but also with all the key stakeholders who are critical for creating an enabling environment for achieving outcomes and scaling. Great. I think we've heard a lot from this section and a lot of lessons to learn when it comes to how we can create partnership for policy, for creating incentives, but also for creating an enabling environment for the innovations that we develop. At this time, I want to ask if there is any one or two burning questions that you'd want to ask any of the panelists. Please raise your hand. 1, 2. All right, let's take those two. Please go ahead. Mention your name and then who you direct your question to.
Thank you very much. My name is Devin Dungu. I come from the University of Nairobi. What I would like to ask is, PPPs, having worked for government and also private sector, they always look very promising on paper. But in situations where, for example, in Africa, where you have a corrupt government and corrupt private sector as well, then basically what you're doing is that you're setting up yourself for a very volatile and risky situation. My question, and I talk about this on the basis of not so long ago. I hope there are no government people here. Our airport.
Can you be brief?
Our airport was being auctioned through a PPP.
Okay.
And I think it took riots and for that decision to be rescinded.
So the question, please.
My question is, what are we gonna do to make sure that these PPPs are transparent, first of all, and also that they are able to help the public? Thank you.
Okay, great. Governance challenges and then making PPP transparent.
Yeah.
Mulakan, that's a question for you. Second question, please.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm called Beatrice Egulu, and I work for 55 member states of Africa. So if you're fearing government now, these are 55. I listened in carefully to the presentations made, and I was impressed by what Ikada said, Ikada, I guess. And I was wondering if you in my position and you are working for 55 member states and they are telling you to promote that PPP, now it has become 4 Ps and there's a C somewhere. How would you go about it? Where have we gotten it wrong? Because we have tried and everyone says, oh, we work with the African Union Commission and sometimes we don't know how we partner with you. And I just want an insight on how we can work better with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those great questions. So Mulakan, very brief, and then Akane.
Okay. Okay. I mean, this is a fair question, I would say. But we have a successful PPP, right? I mean, for example, if you take in Ethiopia, the Addis Ababa Adam Expressway, this is a pure PPP. And a geothermal, for example, we have so many other really successful PPPs. That's not really a question. So, which means it passes through all those, issue of transparency, all those issue of corruption and everything. This is possible there. But the question is now, how do we make this really possible for small scale irrigation, for agribusinesses in general, I would say. And this is a bit complicated because of, let's say, one of the reasons is the land issues, the land property rights, right? It's not like, road construction. It's really very complicated, related to community, farm households and so on. So the question is now how to make this really possible, how to make it really transparent, specifically for agribusinesses to have like a successful PPP business model. Otherwise, there is a lot of PPP business models, really successful, which is working quite well. But the question is now, the issue would come really how to make in terms of institutional arrangement, governance structure, and the overall the system itself, particularly for agriculture, how do we make really successful for PPP business model? We have so many experience. Actually, we are taking some of those examples from the successful business PPP business model into the agribusiness. But we have to be really very sure, like the legal status, the framework, the institutional structure, the governance structures. It has to be really very detailed, and we need actually kind of piloting, to see how it works and where do we need some changes, because the PPP it works for for road or geothermal is not going to work. Now we need a different approach, but we have so many successful PPP business models which worked well in Africa.
Yes, great. So we need to see what works where, why, and how, right? Akania.
Thank you very much for your question, which allow me to elaborate more on how ICRA works. ICRA has several layers of intervention, and depending on what, then the partner to engage is different. For example, on policy aspect, continental policy aspect, we work with African Union. For example, the African Union climate, strategy, our team has supported from the back and provided some input. So if you want to scale technology, maybe we won't go to African Union. We'll go to farmers organization, we'll go to a station organization, for instance. So this is how we operate. Along our theory of change, we identify key actors that can help to achieve specific outcome. Policy outcome, continental, then we work with African Union. Policy aspect, regional, we work with ECOWAS and ECAS and regional organization. One last example on the PPP aspect of fields. We've also implemented some PPP, intervention. I'll just give the example, 1 or 2 examples so that you see.
One example.
Yes, several examples. What seem to work in West Africa is that you build system. For example, you have input suppliers. Farmers to value, right? So we try to bundle climate information, for example. So instead of farmers to get input, you also get something else. So you also get climate information. And climate information is kind of a now. It's not just one of them renewable or renewable that we set in place so that it can be sustainable after the end of April. Let me stop there. Thanks.
Great. So many thanks, Akedia and Mulakan, Manora, and also Idil for those great insights for this first section, Partnership for Policy and Enabling Environment. We want to move to the next section, but I would like everyone to clap and give them a round of applause. I mean, those are really great insights for how partnership can be used for scaling, how partnership can be used for policy and also enabling environment. The next part is how partnership and enabling environment can help in scaling. So that's going to be the second part of our discussion. And I would like to invite three different presentations, and we'll have Chris, Nora, and then I hope I pronounced the name correct. So let's start with Chris for the first presentation.
Yes. Oh, good. Fine.
You introduce yourself and let me get you the mic. Introduce yourself.
Thanks. My name is Chris Ojio. I'm based at CIMIT in Nairobi. And at CIMIT, I lead strategic partnerships and seed systems. At CGIAR, lead inclusive delivery area of work in Breeding for Tomorrow science program. So I'll quickly run through this because I have to run to Breeding for Tomorrow launch in a few seconds, not even minutes. Next. Slide is up next. Okay, great. So I would quickly talk about engaging public sector and what we're doing with the public sector, particularly the national research programs in terms of working with them through the African Dryland Crops Improvement Network, what we call ADSIN, and you probably will hear about ADSIN in other sessions. What we do is we try to work through a valuation approach, identifying with them the market intelligence. Basically, three things that we do with them on this is one, we identify the market segments in which the breeding team works through what we call program design teams. Two, we develop product profiles. And three, we work around dividing our work on a product development pipeline. For that to happen, not every national program has every capacity for everything. And this is not necessarily my statement. This is a statement coming from them that we have capacities to do certain things, we don't have capacities to do others. And in that category, we've identified the national programs that can work along the whole value chain, starting from early discovery, pre-breeding, all the way to seed delivery. But there are a few others who are saying we'd like to be part of the network, but will not do anything to do with discovery, not even to do with population development. Give us early stage testing that we can pick it from there, or give us late stage testing, segregating populations, or only give us fixed lines and we'll do multi-location testing and registration. So that is basically what the national partners are saying, and we work with a total of 20 national programs in Eastern Southern Africa and Western Central Africa. Next, please. And here I am talking about now the private sector, because we've been talking about PPPP, the public-private producer partnerships, which is where we actually do belong. The C is our producers. Now the PPPP, whichever the P's are, when it comes to the private sector, we do understand also that the private sector has different capacities. The multinationals that have their own capacity to do their own breeding, but then we also have a category of private sector that cannot do basic crosses. They cannot identify parents. They cannot do early generation, breeding that we were talking about. Just like the national programs, also the private sector has these different categories, and we look at them and identify what sort of resources they have and what sort of capacities they have. So we do not necessarily have to engage every private sector at the same level. The engagement depends on what they have to offer within what we call Africa Dryland Crops Improvement Network. Next, please. And that said, part of what this has achieved by identifying the right partners in terms of these countries we're working in Eastern Southern Africa and Western Central Africa, just as an example, the testing of the materials coming from the various crops you can see how we managed to spread it out. That if you said one center, one international center to run that sort of multi-locational testing, it does not work. But if you have all these partners helping you with national performance trials as well as on-farm trials, you achieve much more, as you can be able to see on this map of the various on-farm trials conducted by both national and private sector, and the third P on the before the last one called producer. Okay, then next, because I'm running. Now, that said, I need to just acknowledge a few of our very strategic partners that we work with on various aspects. And one is the International Seed Federation. I know that Ajay for sure will put emphasis on this a little later, because we've been working with Ajay in terms of negotiating with the International Seed Federation, mostly bringing together the private sector. And from the equivalent of that in Africa is Africa Seed Trade Association. There is somebody who is very happy and smiling when I mention Africa Seed Trade Association. But for those coming from Asia, we have APSA, Asia Pacific Seed Alliance. And from the Americas, we have America Seed Trade Association. All these are people that we work with closely, but under one big umbrella for now, signed MOU between International Seed Federation and the CGIAR. And then, of course, I've mentioned AFSA, I've mentioned APSA. And I should have mentioned at my introduction, I should have mentioned that I chair this Africa Seed and Biotechnology Partnership Platform, which is a platform basically designed by the Africa Union, but currently the Secretariat is with FARA. So you see the map all over, because we have all these people working with us through these partnerships. Next, please. And what these things have been have enabled us to achieve in terms of opportunities for inclusive seed systems is we are looking at things that people perhaps don't normally pay attention. For example, in last December, we're looking at farmer managed seed systems, which otherwise you'll call community-based producers. Otherwise, if you talk to about farmer managed seed systems in the private sector world, they say no, and perhaps even in the public sector world. But if you're looking at the panoramic view, looking at every actor, every crop, every country, then some of those crops that are not necessarily attracting every attention of every private sector falls here. Then we're thinking about creating a single point of truth. That phrase, single point of truth, basically is just about a database. And then, of course, giving capacity to seed para inspectors that support then the national programs in terms of getting the seed quality assessment and assurance, multi-seasonal seed production regimes by working with various partners, genetic purity of the seeds, particularly from the breeders, especially leveraging the capacities of the various actors, because right now, quite a number of our partners are able to implement.
A minute.
Have a minute?
Yes.
How many?
You have a minute to go.
One. Okay, next slide then, in that 1 minute. And I just wanted to say in this particular, and I mentioned already the number of countries working with this. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, thanks. So that has enabled us to design 6 inclusive seed delivery models and 24 prioritized market segments, as I mentioned about working around the market segments. Next, please. And enabling us, particularly giving an example coming from Senegal, where we're working with a private sector. I will not mention the name, but through what we're calling about active villages in Senegal and one crop sorghum, managing to reach 117,000 farmers in a single year, testing varieties, identifying varieties that then they'll take up and they promote, 58% of whom are women. Next, please. And that sort of partnership also enabling us in terms of seed production. Again, we as CG centers don't produce seed, but working with partners to be able to get that sort of seed production that enables us to reach that number of partners. And the last slide is, now that is yours.
I love this last one, Chris. That's great. Chris will be leaving us. And because he's leaving us, I would want to have one burning question for Chris. So if anyone has one question for Chris, please raise your hand.
If it's burning you, it's okay. Let it not burn me.
Any question for Chris? It looks like there is no question. Very well understood. Ah. Oh. Okay.
Your full name.
Oh. Chris Ogiero.
From Summit, right?
Summit, Nairobi.
Great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Let's give it to Chris. And next, we'll move on to Nora. So Nora, please, you have 6 minutes.
Yes, I'm going to kick off with Ukama Ustawi. Can I just get a little bit of a feel how many people in the room know what I'm talking about? Okay. That's actually the minority. All right. Ukama Ustawi is the regional integrated initiative of the CGIAR, which came to an end in 2024. And me, Nora, I was the coordinator. We had the lead who was running off to a different event, Inga. She was in the room earlier. And as the regional integrated initiative, we were, it must be said, the forerunner to the Scaling for Impact program. And I would say that UU, or as we call it, Ukama Ustawi was very much the blueprint for a lot of what is now being taken up in the Scaling for Impact program and will be implemented globally. And one of our absolute success factors we found in surveys and just in conversations was how we build our community, the community of spirit. And I want to tell you a little bit, I'm going to start with what we achieved, and then we wrote this blog based on which this is based to say, what were the key success factors of what actually made this work. And one of the things, why should you care in the first place, is because we really overachieved actually our targets, and that is despite initially our targets being set to 2025. We did an impact assessment, and I just want to show you where we were active. So also the impact assessment, this is what we covered. This is where most of our results were, right? Kenya, Zambia, Ethiopia. So we didn't cover all of Eastern Southern Africa. We covered 12 countries mostly. This is anyone who's familiar with the wonderful PRMS system of the CGIAR. These are how we are in the various impact areas, right? And how we came out. So you can see we were spread across, because that was also the role of the initiatives, the regional initiatives, right? Not to feed into one specific impact area, but really cover. So again, quite well represented of what we were supposed to be doing as well. All right, so one of the things, this was one of our pause and reflect events. Anyone who's been, they were 1 week long, over 100 people with a lot of evening events and, various different activities. Now, this is only a fraction of what of who is actually represented. So we were across 8 centers, 164 scientists, and I have all the other numbers here, but I don't want to look on my phone now. But we were about, we had a lot of NARS here from across the 12 countries. We partnered with Asareka, FARA, all the people were also on the previous slides, right? And they were very much part of us. So these workshops didn't just serve to get together and reflect how great we were. We took it quite literal, and it was a lot about what do you as our partners, other CG centers who to some degree were very closely involved, others more tangentially, very specific activities. So what are we going to do in the next year? Where do we want to go together? So people walked away, and the idea was, okay, we're going to do this going forward together. Really important. I think anyone who's lived through COVID knows in person is always better than online meetings, right? All right, so I talked a little bit about the profile. So the inner circle is CG, very much core to the initiative and people who were part of it, right? But you can see also a lot of different other sectors, a lot of private sectors. So that's the purple dots, because we did accelerator programs, PPP programs, all of these. So I would say in terms of a healthy ecosystem for sustainable transformation, they were all here. And I'm happy to share further, but really important to bring everyone together. We created at the very start of the community of spirit, actually before I joined, operating principles, right? So we as a community, how will we engage with each other, right? Rational, I realize this should be bigger font, 2 minutes. Rational, interactive, motivational, informative, and transparent. Really important also when it comes to budgeting, right? Intentional and focused on the shared vision, leverage the diversity of all stakeholders, inclusive, helps to redefine the role of science and scientists, creates opportunities for growth of young people. So we had internship programs, as well as a lot of young scientists, learning oriented and fun. We had a lot of fun. Go ahead. So I think one of the really critical operational things we did is we created a work package with a theory of change that just looked at the internal community to make it work, right? And this is not the greatest one, but it was really around these operating principle. And obviously what that means is it becomes part of your theory of change, and it means you put money behind it. You have a secretariat, right? Valencia and me in this case. And you actually have, specific outputs that need to be achieved, specific things. Really makes a difference rather than say, hey, we have a whole bunch of partners and every so often we write an email, right? It needs to be empowered. All right, communities are multipliers. So these are all the various events. And, when we share the PowerPoint afterwards, if you're interested, the reason it's highlighted, because this is all the various things we did. And this is where we would bring people together and they would go out there and tell their centers, the institution, right? So this was the idea. The communities themselves are the multipliers. Our community is our multiplier effect. Yes, so this, I absolutely love this lady. It was at one of our share fairs where we had a farmer field day associated with it, and she was trying it. So in East and Southern Africa, if you do not bring your communities on board, there is no scaling, right? We can talk right here about CSA, so climate smart agriculture, but if you don't actually bring it into the field, if you don't get your muds dirty, right, your boots dirty in the mud, then it's not going to happen. And, these type of events, they are costly, they're very time intensive, they take a lot of time to get people there. One, we had a huge investment. Turned out the next university had a graduation and no one could get through because all the roads were blocked. And, so also being rooted in local context really matters. Again, it takes a lot of resources to make these things happen, but without that, it doesn't happen at all. All right, leadership. One of the key things we got all the time was agile leadership, being responsive, right? Actually creating the workshops like the pause and reflect, listening, and then also reallocating money. It's also quite one thing to invite people, ask people for feedback, and then what happens at the end of the day, you just continue exactly what you did before, right? Also being realistic to say, well, certain things we will not be able to achieve because of limited funding, limited time, and other things. Trust, really critical. That takes a really long time. So one of the things I just want to say, in Zimbabwe, we had by far the highest conversion of knowledge to UU, which is about 1 million people in the country. So in the impact assessment that I showed you, about over 1 million people were aware of us. 164 people indicated that they actually benefited from our activities directly. They didn't just know, but they benefited. But the conversion of actually knowing and then implementing is always the next step, right? And in Zimbabwe, that was by far the highest conversion rate because, to be honest, Summit has been doing this kind of work for many, many, many years and linking it to the bilateral projects. So for me, also the continuity in the Scaling for Impact program will be really critical because these things do not happen 3 years. Someone said on the panel yesterday, 10 years minimum. That's me done. Thank you so much.
Great, let's give it to Nora. That's awesome. Any burning question? One for Nora. 210. No burning question. Let's give it now to Ajay.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Nora. I have 7 minutes. Perfect. Okay, so we heard about PPCP. We heard about PPPP. Now let's talk about South-South cooperation, right? Even in the space of international cooperation, there is South-South cooperation, there is South-South, there was North-South, now it is South-South, there is triangular, and there is also circular. All right, so next one. Okay, so this is just to set the context that in the, whenever we're talking about seed system, sorry. Whenever we're talking about seed system, and particularly for this region, it's very fragmented. We have, I will use the example from Tanzania. Can you just go on clicking here? So we have organized system, that is number 1, 2, and 3. We have seed system, that's number 5 and 6. And we also have something which is called semi-formal, that's number 4, right? And this is, I mean, although this example is coming from Tanzania, but if you look around, throughout Sub-Saharan Africa, this is pretty much the case. Can we have the next one? Next one. Yeah, one more. All right. So as I mentioned, the seed system in Sub-Saharan Africa is very fragmented. And as you can see on your left-hand side, there have been challenges. There are challenges, and I mean, these are challenges which I'm sure are not new for this public or this audience over here in this hall. I mean, challenges on the demand side. At the same time, there are challenges on the supply side as well. And at ERI, and I'm glad that Chris spoke before me, because we also adopted some of those elements, critical elements to CG strategy as well. So we strongly believe that awareness creation, capacity building, and then catalyzing and partnership are very, very critical, I would say, pillars or gears to address some of those challenges, if not everything, right? And since this session is about partnership, I really would like to highlight on the partnership in our strategy. Can we go to the next one, please? All right, so we strongly believe that we coming from civil system, we cannot do everything alone. We cannot do everything ourselves, right? And so is the case with national partners, and so is the case with private sector. So that's the reason we truly believe that partnership is the only way. And more so, whenever we are talking about strengthening seed system for Africa, partnership is the way to go. While we are so strong, and Chris elaborated this quite well, that while we are so strong, I mean, we have, I would say, advantage or upper hand on the left-hand side of the pipeline. But when it goes towards the delivery side, we know very well that the private sector and national system and private sector will have to play a bigger role. And that's where we will have successful PPP in seed system. Next one, please. All right, so a little bit about the South-South cooperation. I mean, this might be just to show that, whenever we're talking about South-South cooperation, many people misunderstand that the northern hemisphere is global north and the southern hemisphere is global south. That is not the case. So all those countries which you see in red, shaded in red, they're all global south, and this all is global north. Next one, please. Yeah, one more. And these are the areas, or these are the opportunities that we see in South-South cooperation. I mean, I can go all the way, from agriculture technologies, that is not new for us, we have been collaborating between the global South and also the technologies coming from global North as well. Policy organization, private sector investment, agriculture sector, agricultural commodity trading has been happening for years together now. Data sharing and digital innovation is one such area where there's no boundary, and we can definitely leverage from the data which is coming from global North, data coming from other countries in global South, and so on and so forth. And the last one, which is so important, is about the agricultural education and capacity sharing. Now, amongst all those things, whenever we're talking about building partnerships in seed sector, I truly believe that agricultural technologies, policy harmonization, and then private sector investment in this area would be very much critical. And we would, I mean, to our partners here in the room who are from, I have 2 minutes, okay, who are from private sector, please collaborate, and please keep your strategies and your kind of your vision open to make sure that you collaborate with the companies coming from outside, whether it is global South or global North. Yeah, next one, please. Next one. All right, so this is just to show you that how is the profile for the private sector here in Sub-Saharan Africa. Of course, we have multinational companies, we have regional companies. For example, Citco itself is present in about 16 to 20 countries here in Africa, and of course, we have local companies. But in each one of them, they have got their own challenges. Like for example, multinational companies, they're there in hybrid crops, but they're not there in the OTE crops. And OTE crops has to be, and when you look at the other regions, for example, Asia, Asia. So OPE crops are dominated by local companies and the regional companies, and which is not the case for us in sub-Saharan Africa. And that is one area where we can truly leverage under South-South cooperation from the companies coming from either from Asia or from Latin America. Next one. Okay, this is one example, and this is the again the consortium example coming from IRI, International Rice Institute. It's called HRDC, Hybrid Rice Development Consortium, and as you can see, we have 90+ members currently, and which is a good mix of all PPP. We have members coming from public sector, private sector, and so on. However, I must also admit that the majority of the partners currently are coming from Asia. There are very few who are coming from Africa. And this is again an opportunity for us, for the private sector and also for the public sector from Africa to really step up and take advantage of some of those existing platforms under South-South cooperation. The next one on the right that you can see, this is basically to promote hybrid rice technology. The next one is to share and exchange material and also knowledge in the open segment. Open pollinated segment, and there is one consortium which is successfully been operating in Asia, and that we would like to really kind of like replicate and customize for Africa. And this is going to be an effort between IRI, Africa Rice, and CGIAR. Yeah, next one. Okay, so Chris already spoke about this. We signed an agreement between CGIAR and ISF, that's International Seed Federation. We also have one agreement between CGIAR and APSA, that's Asia Pacific Seed Association. Next one. Under those MOUs, we have actually practical and workable arrangement which is already existing. I mean, as I mentioned, this is like CGIAR and CG-APSA agreement. And under that, we have APSA, and ASTA, which is African Seed Trade Association, Asia Pacific Seed Association, and American Seed Trade Association. So with this collaboration, we would like to really address some of the challenges which are there in seed system, and more so focusing on the first one, which is African Seed Trade Association. How can we ensure that we strengthen our companies coming from the local level, coming from the regional level in Africa, with the help of APSA and with the help of ASTA. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks, Aya. Any burning question? 2 and 0. All right. So the first part was the partnership for policy and enabling environment. Second, partnership for scaling. Third, partnership for, can you guess? Partnership for the last one. Climate resilience. All right, so let's listen to Daisy and Eric, and Daisy will start. We started. All right.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Daisy Martinez Barón. I'm from the Alliance of Biodiversity and CGIAR, and I'm based in Cali, Colombia. So I'm going to show you, next one, please. Partnerships, an example of the partnerships for climate resilience. The importance of partnerships, the learnings of the process, and the key challenges that we have faced and how we have addressed them. And this, I'm going to address this through a specific example. Next one, please. On climate services and how we have been able to scale climate services in Latin America and the Caribbean. So when we are talking about climate services, what do we mean? So we need to understand what the needs are in terms of agroclimatic information. We also enhance the tools to each time better forecasts, and then how we empower and strengthen the capacity of the different institutions that are involved in this process. Institutions, stakeholders, and different type of actors from the local level all the way to the national and regional scales. This is at the core of the process of development of the innovation. And when I'm talking about innovation, I'm talking about the local technical agroclimatic committees. It all started through knowledge sharing. needs that we are facing in the agricultural sector, that the stakeholders at the local scale are facing. So we try to understand that and start sharing that knowledge and looking out for solutions and how we downscale that information. So the value chain of climate services include the production of the information, that is key, how we downscale that information, how we enhance the models so that the meteorological institutes have better tools to do models with less uncertainty in terms of the results that they have, how we harmonize local and scientific knowledge and information so that we tailor agroclimatic recommendations in a way that farmers, local stakeholders are able to understand that. How we transfer that information so that what are the channels? It is, a committee in which we gather together and try to discuss the weather and climate forecast for the next weeks and months. But then there are other channels that we can use, WhatsApp, the social media, and so on. And then the use. How farmers, how local stakeholders actually use that information to plan their activities, to decide what to plant, when to plant, if the inputs are needed to implement, to apply, and so on. So at the end, the starting point is the end user. What are the needs and how we can tailor the agroclimatic information so that it means something for the actual actions that they have to make in the agricultural sector. Next, please. So what we have achieved. So as I mentioned, these local technical agroclimatic committees, one key input is the downscale agroclimatic information that is produced by the meteorological institutes, and is so that we in the local agroclimatic committees, the different stakeholders at the municipal or state level, they understand what that means. Then we have the knowledge, both of the local partners and then the scientific and research and technical actors. So that we reconcile, okay, what are the implications of this in the different crops that are in this location or in another location. And the last one is in terms of the key ingredient is the discussion. What are the recommendations? What are the actions that we need to implement to mitigate the effects of this, of how this weather and climate forecast will impact the crop? So far in Latin America, 11 countries have implemented these local technical agroclimatic committees. There are more than 85 committees across the region involving more than 500 stakeholders from the local, national, and regional scales, reaching 500,000 farmers, at least with the agroclimatic information that these actors, the meteorological institutes, together with the ministries of agriculture, producers associations, and so on, are producing, analyzing, transferring, and translating for the different stakeholders. We are supporting the transformation of agriculture by enhancing the confidence on the agroclimatic information, also transforming the knowledge about the production activities and measures, practices that we have to implement to address climate challenges, national and institutional policy changes, because in many countries in Latin America, the local technical agroclimatic committees became an adaptation action in the national determined contributions. And something very important is the democratization of agroclimatic knowledge. And partnerships are essential for that. So this network is just an example of one country. It is Guatemala. The black nodes are the different committees that are in place, established in Guatemala, and then the network that it is gathering. And next one, please. And finally, building on partnerships. So this approach is basically working and being led by the local and national partners. We, as the CGIAR, are backstopping the whole process and supporting with technical capacity and also facilitating the process. But the ones that are leading these committees in the local, in the municipalities, in the state areas, are actually the local stakeholders. So in practice, we work with the methodological institutes, together with the ministries of agriculture, and together with the local stakeholders in each one of those committees, we produce these local agroclimatic bulletins. When I mean we, is all the partners that are involved in these communities. And the last, just one before, please. And then informing policy at the regional level, national level, and putting data, information, and knowledge available for climate risk management. So connecting the nodes, it's very important to really make connections across scales and to generate actually a systemic impact. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Daisy. Just on time. Any burning question for Daisy? All right. This is Beatrice, right? Please go ahead.
I just thank you so much for the presentation. I just wanted to know if you are working with the African Union Commission, the Sustainable Environment and Blue Economy Directorate, because we have a situation room at the AU that talks about climate services, but also an SCP program, a multi-million-dollar program. I just want to know if you work together, and if you don't, then maybe I link you up.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Actually, through the ICRA project, they have a huge component on climate services, and the team here in Africa is actually working on that as well. So these are the approach, the local technical agroclimatic committees were developed in Colombia initially, and then expanded not only in Latin America, the 11 countries, but there are some countries also here in Africa and Asia that are also implementing that approach. And that is being backstopped by the ICRA project that is being implemented, but happy to discuss further with you. Thank you.
So Arcadia, there is a collaboration here. Please connect with Beatrice and Daisy. All right, let's listen to Eric. And then after that, we'll have a Q&A and then a break. Then we come back.
Thank you. My name is Eric Magembe. I work for the International Potato Center. I'm a biotechnologist. I'm going to talk about partnership for unlocking the potential of agricultural biotechnology in Africa. So in Africa, we don't have so many countries that are adopting the biotechnology as a tool for climate resilient improvement in crops. As you can see from that map, very few countries are adopting or are utilizing this technology for crop improvement. A handful of countries are already adopting these crops. For example, Kenya, Ethiopia, Nigeria, and Sudan, they are already having BT cotton. And in South Africa, we have crops like maize being grown there. And also now we have better technologies, even like gene editing. And from the other map there, you can see Africa is virtually empty. And a few countries, like 4 countries, are testing this new technology known as gene editing. So next slide. So no. Previous. Yes. So I'd like to talk about one challenge that we have in potato as an example, that is lab blight, and we are using this technology to develop resistance, climate resilient crop. This is a disease that has been there for many years. There has been a lot of partnerships, collaborations, trying to solve the problem with this. In Africa, farmers have to use many chemicals to control the disease. If you don't use chemicals to control it, you lose your crop up to 100%, and the production costs are up to 40% to control the disease. And we are trying to have partnership to try to solve this problem of this disease. Next slide. So breeders are doing a good job. We have varieties that have been bred, but it takes a long time to get these, like those varieties there. It took 46 years to develop. But with biotechnology, we can do similar varieties in less than 4 years. So it's quite good technology. So we have partnered with organizations from the US, University of Wisconsin, Two Blades Foundation, the Sainsbury Lab, to transfer resistant genes that have been identified into farmer-preferred varieties. And we've done this in collaboration with the NAS. So I'm going to talk about the partnerships that we've had with the NAS in trying to deliver this technology into our farmers. Next slide. So, you're too fast. One click. Next slide. Next one. Yes. So we partnered with this NAS in Africa. So we started in Uganda in 2015, but in Uganda we stopped because there was no regulatory framework to adopt this technology. But we got very good results, like you can see there. We have complete resistance to the disease, as you can see from there. Then we moved to Kenya. The lessons that we learned from Uganda, we were able to do similar work in a very short time, and we partnered with Calro. And now we are at the process of transferring this technology or this variety into Calro. So I welcome you on Thursday evening, where we're going to have a licensing agreement signing between Calro and SIP to transfer these variety to Calro so that they can move ahead with it. In Nigeria, we are doing the same. And recently, we started a project in Rwanda to advance this technology in Rwanda also. And hopefully, in Rwanda, we're going to achieve it in a very short time. Our target is to have this variety released in Rwanda this year. Next slide. So what are the next steps now that we are working with our partners? So of course, for this technology to be approved, it has to be submitted to the National Biosafety Authority, and we have done that. We are waiting for the approval so that now we can move into the next steps of advancing it to performance trials and then variety registration. We're also waiting approval from the National Environmental Management Authority. And then based on those two approvals, we move to the next steps. So we have submitted the regulatory dossier for that. And we hope that Calro are going to partner with seed producers to start producing this variety so that farmers are able to access it in a short time. Next slide. So we have done the impacts of this kind of partnerships or this kind of products that we'll be developing with our socioeconomic scientists. And you can see the results are showing that if these varieties are adopted by the African farmers, especially in Kenya, where we are testing the advanced Shangi variety, we see that farmers are going to gain 34% more income when they adopt this variety. I think the product profiles, the product life cycle, this is a slide that you've seen from my previous presenters. So throughout the product life cycle, we have been engaging several partners, and now we are at the stage where we want to deliver this technology into the national programs who are going to partner with the private sector in producing the seed, and therefore we have a product that the farmers can access. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Eric. That was short and precise. Any burning question for Eric? Kevin.
Thank you very much for the good presentation. I just wanted very, very quickly, in Kenya, the very famous potato is Shangi. I wanted to know if this technology has already been put in the background of Shangi, because that's what most of the farmers use in Kenya. Thank you.
Yes, precisely the product we are advancing in Kenya is Shangi, improved Shangi.
Okay.
Mention your name and...
Yeah, thank you. My name is Simon. What is the role of KEFIS in the work that you're doing?
So, Kevin, you saw the national performance trials and also the variety release. So KEFIS are going to be involved in that.
Any more questions? Okay, please, your name and
Thank you. Catherine Langat from the Africa Sea Trade Association. Just a quick question. You've mentioned a country that you had tried to do production in Uganda, but then the regulatory framework was not very enabling and you decided to pull out. Is this a close for that country, or is there any other opportunities that can be explored? Thank you.
Thank you, Lagat. In Uganda, we couldn't continue because of the regulatory environment. It's not conducive for us to adopt this technology. So until we have a conducive environment, we are not, because even if we continue with the research there, we are not, this variety is not going to be adopted. So that's why we couldn't continue there.
Just a quick follow-up. Are you engaging the government or other stakeholders to try and engage change the regulations?
Yes, we are following up on what is happening there, but from what we got from our partners and our colleagues on the ground is that we still don't have a good environment for us to continue working there.
please, your name and then question. Okay, ladies first. Please go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Charlotte, I'm a farmer from Uganda. And this is interesting that this was not able to be adopted in my country. But my question is, how do you choose the countries you go to? Because if you consider that this would not be done in Uganda, maybe you wouldn't have gone there and maybe spent much time doing whatever you're doing. So I'd like to know what you put into consideration when you're choosing the countries that you're going to. Thank you.
Thanks for your question, a very good question. So what we consider is the enabling environment. We should have an enabling environment for adoption of the biotech varieties. Number two is the partnerships that we're talking about. So good partnerships. We had a very good partnership with NARO for sure. We got very good results that actually now we transferred into the other countries. So partnerships are very, very important. And also adoption of the technology. So like in Kenya, we did with our social scientists, the adoption scenarios. And it shows that if we gave them this variety, it is going to be highly adopted. So those are the conditions that we look before we can say that we want to advance these varieties in those countries.
Looks like there is a limited enabling environment in Uganda and a very favorable enabling environment in Kenya. Is that the case?
Yes, in Kenya and Nigeria, Nigeria already adopted cowpea, BT cowpea, which is a food. So in Nigeria, I'll say like they are quite ahead because they have adopted a commodity that is being consumed. Of course, South Africa, they have had the maize for a very long time. Yeah.
Great. Chair, I want to defend Uganda. Chair, I want to defend Uganda.
Okay. Now I'll go to the gentleman first, and then I'll come to Beatrice.
Okay, thank you very much. And sorry for the interruption because you are defending someone. Yeah. My question is a short one. It seems within the process you are like in the final stage. Is there any room for taking some other countries on board, or is the window is closed? I don't know.
No, we are actually like 2-3 weeks ago, I was in Malawi, and there's a lot of interest there. We are looking into, like I said, all those conditions where we have an enabling environment. Burkina Faso, they're also looking forward to this. We have Ghana, so it's not closed. It's only that those four were the first. Yes.
To Beatrice, the defense.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, maybe the word is not defense, but I'd like to talk about partnerships in the context of whether they are institutionalized or personalized. Sometimes you think by working with Beatrice, you have a partnership, and then you don't really engage systematically. I would like to say that in this room, there are people who can help you to deliver on what you intended to deliver. We have Dr. John Mulumba, who is seated behind there, a very big person in Naro. We have Usesa here, Dr. George Bijirwa. You have me here, you have that farmer. I think let's re-engage.
Great. Please, can you just show your hand? The people that Beatrice mentioned your name, can you just show your hand? Okay, Eric, you have a lot of contacts.
We've had meetings with Dr. Baguma, Dr. Andrew Chigundu, Dr. Alex Vireje, plus in addition to those. So I'll say in Uganda is where we had very good partnership, and we actually were there for 8 years testing this. So that's where we began. So we still have hope for Uganda. We are just waiting for the biosafety law to be, the biosafety to become a law, and then we bounce back.
According to the political economy theory, it takes 10 years. So you have 2 more years to go, Eric.
Yes.
We have 2 questions online, but after these 2 questions, we also want to pose the questions to all the other presenters. So in case you have questions for any of them, Nora is here, Daisy is here, Aja is here, Akadia is here, and Idil somewhere. So
they have to go to an IMI event.
Okay, all right. So we still have a lot of participants here, and you can pose questions to them in case you didn't get a chance. The 2 questions, the first one is there a room to bring local varieties into the former seed systems? We have seen farmers continuing to grow varieties that they have planted for a long time. There is reason why they do not want to let go. Is there a possibility for their integration? I'm not sure if this question is for Aja or for Eric.
Sure. I think that's a very important question. I mean, as question itself says, that there must be some reason why farmers want to really stick to those old varieties, right? So the approach for us at ERI and also largely at CGIAR is to really look at the market segmentation and market requirement, right? To study that locally grown variety very, very carefully and to look at the market preferences, whether it is farmers' preferences, consumer preferences, and so on. And if there is any better variety which is matching those market preferences, right, then to promote that variety in that particular market segment. If there is none, then obviously we have no choice but to allow farmers to really grow those varieties. But if there is any better variety, then definitely that should be integrated into the seed chain.
Great. And then the second question, maybe that also goes to you. Have the biotech varieties been evaluated by farmers, not just on resistance to disease, but also on other qualities?
So for Nigeria, I know that they have done on-farm trials for the varieties they are releasing there. But in Kenya, it's not a requirement, so we are not going to do on-farm trials. We just release the varieties to the farmers. So in Nigeria, for the biotech potato, we are going to do on-farm trials with the farmers when we reach that stage.
Thank you. Now okay, please, your name and then your question.
Hello, my name is Mael Abu Osman. I come from Somalia. My question is, the climate change resilience in Somali agriculture sector is a critical issue given the country extreme vulnerable climate-related shock. And how is this sector we see for all the African countries active, but what happened in Somalia? Is there anyone or partnership in Somalia?
The question is to, okay, I can see a hand. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Actually, that's a good question again. So we had partnership with Somalia about 3-4 years ago, although it wasn't as active as other countries in the region, but then we shared some material, some lines, some germplasm with Somalian partners, and then they conducted the national performance trials themselves, and they were able to release 3 varieties from ERI now in Somalia. So these varieties were sent based on the agroclimatic requirement of the country, but then we weren't there directly. National partners were the one who tested those varieties, but then this partnership was there, if although not as active as other countries.
All right, thank you. And we have Daisy, and then we have a gentleman behind. Ladies first, so let's give it to Daisy, and then going to respond.
Yeah, I have and the question. So how we involve communities in the climate information services approach that I mentioned. So there are different ways. One, we use the human-centered design methodology, in which we focus on what are the needs of the different farmers, men, women, youth, and how they approach and how they use the information, the climate information. What are the key decision-making process that they actually deal with every day. So that's one of the key tools that we use. The other one is in terms of, we have developed a methodology that is called Participatory Integrated Services for Agriculture. This is focused on how we share the information, the agroclimatic information. So what are the linkages and what is the relationship between climate and the crop, and how that affects the decision making that the farmers do. This participatory integrated for climate services for agriculture is a 10-step methodology in which with very participatory exercises, we explain what does it mean to have 100 millimeters in a period of time, or what are the implications of a weather forecast in the few weeks and next months. So it's a very step-by-step approach in which we use that and we try to involve communities. And then the last but most important is that we aim for the participation of farmers in those committees. So representatives, cooperatives, and so on. So we need them to be part of the committees so that they actually are involved in the process of understanding, discussing the agroclimatic information. Thanks.
Thank you. My name's Dave Prescott. I'm from the Partnering Initiative in the UK. Thank you for the presentations. My question is, do you think that the CG is getting as much value as it can from its partnerships? And if not, what are the missing opportunities?
That's a very good question. Who would dare to give an answer? Oh, Nora, great, please.
Hi. I think it depends on which partner. I think some partnerships are extremely well established, and very much part of how the CG works. For example, I would say with the NARS. I mean, I don't think it's a secret, for example, that in many countries, there is a fluidity between being a NARS employee, being a CG employee, and sort of back and forth. So that obviously leads in many countries. I mean, it's also, when we then even list the amount of partners, it doesn't really reflect in many cases how the relationship is, really on the ground. I mean, I know, for example, how even the alliance works with Calro in Kenya. I mean, it's side by side. The two are indistinguishable in many cases. They run everything together. So there, I would say yes. In terms of, working with specific farmers, for example, or farmer cooperatives, or if you look at, any sort of new partnerships, I think that gets a bit shaky. So I'm also was part of the fragile and conflict and migration initiative, right? And there now you start working with humanitarian partners who, for example, most of them have lost most of their funding just in the last 2 months, right? So obviously one of the biggest risks there is that not even internally there is an issue. I mean, the partner is basically breaking apart. And obviously in this environment, you constantly deal with that. So there's certain systems work really well. I would say others require actually a lot more understanding of the partner needs. And maybe, as the lady from the AU said, you think you work because you're working with me, you can say you have a relationship with the AU, but actually you have a relationship with her, right? So really creating those a lot stronger bonds I would think in many cases the CG maybe needs to expand a bit upon. And it's also because, it's an individual researcher who's found like a champion, and then, but that researcher leaves and then that relationship is sort of gone. That's my reading of it. I don't know if other people disagree.
Yeah, please. Thank you, Nora.
Yeah, thank you, Nora. I think yeah, thank you, Nora. I think you summarized it very well. But I think one just piece that I really would like to add over here is that CGIAR has been very purposeful since last maybe couple of years, also towards public-private partnerships. So this private was missing. For let's say if I talk about 2 or 3 decades ago, probably we weren't so much purposeful about the private partnership, but we are now, right? And there are some very successful examples within CG itself. Like, for example, one that I showed here, it was, HRDC, Hybridized Development Consortium. The other one is AFLA-SAFE from IIT. Anyone from IIT over here? So, this is brilliant innovation coming from CG system, but it was scaled only, I would say only because of the public-private partnership. And, these are just examples, but then there are many other examples. And now we strongly believe that, as I showed that pipeline, that although we have bit upper hand or some advantageous position on the extreme left, which is like, upstream science and so on. But then on the delivery side, we truly believe that we have to have right set of partners with us. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. So for this section, we've looked into how partnership can be created and why partnership is important for scaling, why partnership is important for creating an enabling environment, and why partnership is also important for scaling climate smart innovations and resilience. And we want to thank all the panelists, Arcadia, Idil, Nora, Daisy, Eric, and all of you who contributed to this section. And don't forget the 4 Ps and the 2 Ps and the CP. But at the same time, also don't forget that enabling environment is important for everything. And we need individual partnerships to be able to scale all the innovations. We have very successful models from ICRA, from Okama Wistawi and others, which we can learn from. But going forward also, we want to use these partnerships and linkages and models that we have to scale other CGIAR innovations. And to you, all of you in the audience, this has been great doing this with you, and especially your questions and engagement. And I think the conversation will go on at the corridors and the next couple of days. So I want to thank you very much. And this is where we end this section. There's going to be another section. There will be a break, and then the other section will follow. And I want to hand it over to my co-MC, Daniel.
So hi, everyone. Yeah, so thank you, Jonathan. Great moderation. So yeah, with this, we're closing like the first half of the session of our transformative partnership session. But we're going to a break, and then we will back at 4:45 in order to listen to more success stories, with our partners. But also we try to be a little bit provocative, not also to learn more from them, about the learnings, also working together with CGIAR and other partners. We will have representatives from Inter-American Institute for Cooperation and Agriculture, from the African Seed Trade Association, from Chamber Records, from CORAF. So we will have like a wide range and very different representatives from different sectors and different organizations. So don't miss it. See you in at 4:45. Okay.
Can I answer the question?
Hello again. Hello, everyone. We're going to start our panel. It's our last panel. Actually, in the first half of the session, the first part wasn't supposed to be a panel, but it was a nice way to start. So we're going to close our session of the transformative partnership with another panel. But first, I will introduce myself. I'm Daniel Jimenez. I'm Colombian. And I've been working for the CGIAR for a long time. And as in the CG, we do research for development, right? And something that has been clear from the first session and from the different sessions, even from the sessions yesterday, is that by doing research for development, in order to achieve development, I mean, we don't do that alone, right? So it's through our partners. And actually, I remember the words of one of the directors of one of the centers, and he was telling a few years back that without the private sector, there's no development, right? But it totally kind of, like evolved over the years as we implemented our portfolio from the CGIAR. And we listened to, in the first session, we're talking about public-private community partnerships, farmer-based partnerships. So it's kind of evolving every time. And today, we are fortunate to have representatives from the public sector, from the private sector, from NARES. So expect a very super informative panel about what we want to do with these transformative partnerships. So first, I would also like you guys to introduce yourselves, to tell about the organization you work for and the sector that you represent. So George, start with you.
Yep. Thank you so much, Daniel. And good afternoon. Good afternoon, guys. Man, give us some cheers, We're the last class of them. Yeah, great. So thank you. I needed that. So my name is George Mena. I'm the CEO and the founder of a NATech company called Shamba Records. So Shamba Records, we close or we bridge the digital gap in Africa's agricultural market. And so far, we're in Kenya and Uganda. And we have a traceability solution that's able to track data from the farmer level to the aggregation all the way to the export market. In between that, we're able to offer an array of services. We have a crop calendar that's able now to help the farmer in their farming seasons, as well as we have a credit scoring engine that's able to score the farmers and help the farmers unlock credit. So thank you so much, Daniel, and the team from CG for inviting us. We have been very good partner with us, and we've been able to develop very important solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, George. I don't know why you guys are standing, but then I think that you deserve to sit down now. Okay.
Okay, thanks very much. I'm Emmanuel Njukwe. I'm the Director of Research and Innovation at CORAF. CORAF is the West and Central African Council for Agricultural Research and Development. I'm based in Dakar, in Senegal. And CORAF is an association of national agricultural research systems. So we coordinate activities in 23 countries in West and Central Africa. And there's a 24th country that has just indicated interest to work with CORAF. And CORAF, we do have those partners are what we call the shareholders of CORAF. Then we do have stakeholders from the private sector, NGOs, CG centers, from discovery through delivery to use of technology. So we work along the value chain and including other stakeholders involved, like in the climate information services, water information services, market information system. So thank you, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Mario. So if I'm getting right, it's like you kind of gather different narratives in.
They are the shareholders.
They are the shareholders. Okay. Oh, fascinating. Look, I just, I used to be, before I became a scientist, I used to be an station agent. So expect from questions from that perspective.
I also worked at CG. I was at CG for 21 years. So.
Okay. Okay, Mohammed. Go ahead. Can you sit down?
I'm the Director of Technical Cooperation at ICA. ICA is the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation in Agriculture based in San Jose, Costa Rica. The Director General is sitting right over there, Dr. Manuel Otero. And it works in 34 countries throughout Latin America and the Caribbean. We have several thematic programs that we work on, from bioeconomy towards looking at climate action, gender, etc. And also we promote South-South cooperation with institutions like FARA and also AGRA. And having a partnership is one of the key areas of initiative which ICA is championing within the region.
Thank you. So my name is Catherine Langat from the Africa Seed Trade Association. And Africa Seed Trade Association is an umbrella organization in the continent that represents the private seed companies. We are representing not only individual seed companies, but also national seed trade association in different member states within the continent. Currently, we have membership of more than 100 seed companies, national seed trade associations, as well as stakeholders that are in the seed, but majorly on private, in the private sector. I'm going to talk more about partnerships, so I think I'll pause here for the introduction, and then I'll share more on how we are partnering. Thank you.
So just one technical tip that I got just before we went to a coffee break is that we shouldn't use the mic this way, but only professionals knew that. Daisy was the one who was doing it the right way. So we should like use it not really too close to the mic. I learned that recently. So I already learned something. So now let's learn more, okay? So some of the questions were already asked, to some of our, to the partners in the first session. Actually, but I managed to rephrase some of them and try to get, from you, as you're representing different sectors and different organizations. So I would like to ask some questions to all of you, and then we will see, like how can we target some question depending on the sector that you guys represent. So the first question would be like, can each of you briefly share a concrete example of a successful partnership that you've been part of and that has been directly impacted the scaling agriculture innovations?
Okay. Thank you so much, Daniel. And that's a very important question, as well as a very intimate question to us as Shamba Records. So as Shamba Records, we are a tech company, and our skill set is mainly on developing solutions using technology, but this technology are very farmer-facing. And coming from that background of technology, sometimes we might not have the right maybe skill set or the research that we need to be able now to enhance our solution. So when we started working together with CG, that's like 2 years ago. By that time, we're developing a crop calendar. And when you're developing a crop calendar, you need to have very specific data sets. You need to know maybe if you're creating a crop calendar for a certain value chain, maybe let's say coffee, let's say tea, or any other kind of value chain, you need to be able to know the different dynamics or parameters of that particular value chain. Like what's the best variant, and how does it work in a particular region? What's the time that you need to be able to apply inputs? And for that, we didn't have that kind of data because what we had is just the technology skill set. But come CG, we're able now to get some of the data sets whereby we're able to get and access different variety of data sets from different value chains, whether it's coffee, tea, as well as maize. And then we're able to tailor make and localize our solution to address the needs of the farmers. So I'll say this has been very, let's say, instrumental in terms of our company journey, from developing as well as to tailor-making solutions that are able to address the farmers that we work with or the producers that we work with. And the interesting part when we started working together is we had about 10,000 farmers. And right now we're almost about 40,000 farmers because we're able now to address and meet the needs of these particular farmers. So I'll say it has been a very, let's say, active collaboration, as well as we have seen the success and as well as we have seen the power of being able to work together. Yeah.
Thank you, George. Now, Emmanuel.
Yeah, thank you very much. As I earlier mentioned, CORAF is a regional, sub-regional organization, and we do have a lot of partners depending on their capacity and the different services they render. We work with a lot with the research institutes. They supply us with products. We also have information, and we have services. So we deliver all this. In the example I would like to make, in the past, we've been promoting technology as an entity. So as an entity, it becomes very difficult for farmers to adopt. So in partnership with other centers, we now scale technology as a package. For instance, if you have improved, they mention a lot of different varieties of wheat, maize here, but you tell somebody you have a good variety of maize, it doesn't make any information. So you need to promote the technology as a package. When will the person plant the maize? What are the federal recommendations? What are the water requirements? You know, the marketing of the maize, that the package makes the farmers to adopt the technology easily. So we worked a lot on seeds together with Tats and Mappy. Chris Akem is here. We've done a lot of work. In the past, we were promoting this technology as an entity, but during the MITA is a marketplace for agricultural technology and innovation. So we do organize annual events. So we experienced from other centers, we discovered that the adoption rate was low, not because they didn't like the technology or the products, but because we're promoting them as an entity. So we brought in other partners like IFDC. IFDC now came to talk about the soil requirements, you know, what are the fertilizer rates for those varieties that have been promoted. Then we now establish a platform, digital platform, where in the digital platform, we have two different windows, the windows where the technologies are indicated, then another window where the technologies are promoted as a package with other recommendation management practices. Then, well, you know, with that, we have done a lot of success in the technology adoption. And then we do develop also model and approaches on how to scale technologies. You know, it's not sufficient to put the technology on the shelf or in the database, but we've been doing a lot of showcasing where we have agricultural technology packs. The agricultural technology packs are where we establish the products, and then we invite policymakers, private sectors to help to produce. The centers that develop the technology don't have the capacity to produce those technologies at quantity required. So we also partner with the private sectors, indicates who are those, take stock of those who are in need of those technologies, then link them to the private sectors to produce the quantity of required in each country that the technology or the products is needed. So it has actually helped us, and we learn a lot from that. And also in partnership with other centers that the products, we organize events where they come, and we make them to understand that promoting technology or product as an entity is always very difficult to do. Then most of the technology we develop is good also to showcase what the technology is, how it works, what category of stakeholders, and at what cost. So those are other issues that we include in the technology package that we promote. So you have to tell the beneficiary or the user of the technology for the category of the technology. Not all technology are appropriate for farmers. There are some other technologies that are for private sectors and for other stakeholders. So you have to define the technologies, what it is for, how does it operate, for what category of stakeholders, and at what cost. Thank you.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Now, Mohamed.
Thank you. Since this session is about climate resilience and climate services, which Daisy made a presentation, I will give an example of success case of which ICA has been working on in the coffee sector. You know, the coffee sector is very important in the whole of Central America because of the economic activity, and the livelihoods of people. And coffee rust has devastated the coffee industry in the last 10 years. However, our partner Kati, which hosts one of the most important germplasm collection of coffee, the third largest collection in the world, we worked with Kati to develop the hybrids of coffee, which is tolerant to rust, but also of good crop quality and also good productivity. So we look at technologies that respond to multiple traits, what consumers are demanding, but also how do you look at the resilience to climate change and adaptation measures, etc. Now, this hybrid was developed, and ICA, working with a system approach, and because we have what we call the mechanisms for cooperation, one referred to as PROMECAFE, is already 40 years in existence, which integrates the private sector, the research organizations, CIRAD and CAT is part of it, ICA playing an important role in the impacts and policies, and the policymakers, including representatives of the ministers, in which we work together to develop a strategy for scaling up these hybrids of coffee in a system approach agroforestry systems in the whole of Central America. So this has been a success case, which also many of the countries have been developing early warning systems, but we need to standardize the warning systems. So we work towards standardizing the early warning systems, but also to look at diagnosis of the coffee rust and to make decisions, and also providing training to the farmers using digital tools. That's one of the programs that ICA has been working on,
How do you apply digital technologies? We're looking at a cascading model to have impacts and extension, but also how do you look at the barriers for adoption of this technology? Whilst we're in the process, we do recognize that if you have hybrids of coffee, then you need special technologies for multiplication of these hybrids. So what we did, we developed new tools and methods to multiply these hybrids and also create nurseries which are producing these hybrids of coffee and giving to the coffee growers as one of the way of linking to the services. The point I want to make is that sometimes you have technologies, but you need to look at the supporting services that will enable that these technologies will be adopted by farmers, be it seeds or be it fertilizers or bioinputs, and these are some things that we need to work on. And finally, what we did was to develop a business case for the banks to finance the investments, the upfront investments that farmers need to make to offset the costs for replanting the coffee plantations. I think the question here when we talk about scale, what is the metrics we're going to use to measure the impacts of scale? And that's something that we need to work and move forward on. And here's where ICA is playing an important role in providing support, working with the policymakers, and also be developing partnerships to scale up these technologies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Am I doing it right? Like that? Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I think, Daniel, just to start, having been the last panel, there are things that I'm afraid we're going to repeat from the sessions that have been since the beginning of the afternoon. But nonetheless, I'm going to just echo how the Africa Seed Trade Association is partnering with is doing the private-public partnership sort, and what are some of the successful partnerships that we've had. So I'm just going to echo two of what has been presented earlier today by both Ajay and Chris, for those who are there in the earlier session. And then I'm going to highlight three of additional partnerships that have been successful. I hope that's not too many. So the first one that I just want to underline that was mentioned earlier today is the hybrid rice consortia. And here is an example, and I don't want to go so much into details, but clearly the CG centers, and in this case, IRI, has some good varieties or some good germplasm, and they partner very closely with some of our members, private sector, to make sure that these technologies, these varieties are easily accessible to the farmers. So this is one of those successful partnerships that we've had. And then the second one that I would also like to highlight that was mentioned earlier today is VAX, which is Vision for Adapted Crops and Soils. And here is an example of an initiative that has just come up. We are yet to see the full potential of this initiative, but nonetheless, we have some private seed companies that are partnering with different CG centers to make sure that whatever varieties, particularly plants and seeds, are being released or at least are being propagated at the CG centers can easily be scaled up, can be produced so that the farmers can have access to that. So we have some of our members who are having bilateral discussions and bilateral agreements with the CG centers. So these are two of practical examples that were mentioned earlier today. But three others that I would like to highlight is also in the spirit of consortia. We have the Africa Vegetable Breeding Consortia, the AVBC, and we are partnering. Our members, as I said, AFSTA, the Africa Seed Trade Association, is a partner association representing seed companies. So we have some of our members who are partnering very closely with the World Vegetable Center to make sure that whatever hybrids and materials from the World Vegetable Center that is being produced can be scaled up, can be bulked and reproduced so that this can reach farmers, especially in regions that I would like to call them the last mile, so it's difficult to reach them. So with these business cases and business models that we've seen, and by the relationship, or rather the partnership between World Veg and AFSTA, we've been able to create this consortia, and we are getting a lot of private companies having some partnership with the public. Then another consortia is the Africa Cereals, Legumes and Breeding Consortia. And here is also another example of a consortia where there is scaling up of cereals and legume seeds. Again, there is an opportunity for germplasm and genetics to be easily accessible to the farmers, and the private sector plays a crucial role, and in this case, most of our members in doing the production or at least a multiplication of the seeds, so that at the end of the day, the cereals and legumes can be able to reach out to the farmers. So, I mean, apart from the Africa Vegetable Breeding Consortia and the Africa Cereals and Legumes Breeding Consortia, one last consortia that I'd like to highlight, which has been a success, is the African Orphan Crop Consortia. I don't know if any of you has heard this before, but now that is changing to opportunity crops sort of consortia. And here we are looking at crops in Africa, or rather crops that are locally grown in Africa under African climatic conditions. But previously, or in the recent past, private seed companies were not taking up because there was no, shall I say, potential business models out of it. But now, considering food security is holistic, we have to look at not only the corn, I mean maize, rice, etc., but also looking at other crops, sorghum, cassava. We partnered very closely with the Africa Plant Breeders Association to make sure that at least these opportunity crops / orphan crops are also brought to the limelight. There's partnership, and our members are keen and eager to make sure that, yes, a business model can be created out of it. So, Daniel, these are some of the success stories that you've witnessed and practically seen that our members are engaging in a public-private partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. So you guys, you know, this is like music to my ears, because you guys touch on topics that are super close to my professional heart, right? So like digital, for instance, like digital, how to use digital tools to reach many farmers, thousands of farmers, right? From Emmanuel, I told you, you know, like as I used to be an extension officer, I didn't remember to be trained to work. I was trained to work only on crop productivity. And now you're talking about markets, linking farmers to markets and all of that. This is a training that I didn't receive, right? But it's super holistic approach. And I'm glad to know that, you know, like things have evolved in that way. In the case of Mohamed, right, from IICA. So when I was station officer, it was in coffee, actually, right? So in Colombia. So I remember back to those days, all the problems that we had with, not only with the rust disease, but also with pests, and how one of the alternatives was, you know, to develop hybrids, but it wasn't the CG. And you know, like I'm very happy to hear from our colleagues here that there's no CG involvement in all of that. And we're fine with that. This is what we wanted to do also with this panel, right? Not only to talk about the success and only about, you know, where the CGIAR is always needs to be as part of the dream team of partnerships, and 3 spectacular examples from Catherine, not only 1, but 3, right? With different approaches. So now, I think we had enough, you know, of good stories like success. Yeah, I would like to know more on the flip side of things, right? And maybe if you can make an effort to think on examples of where the partnerships, for instance, didn't work as it was intended. Can I be a little controversial and make you think about that? Because we also, you know, we both from both success and failures.
Okay, great. Yeah. So for me and for Shamba Records, for any successful, let's say, partnership, it's not about just the shared goals. It's also about active collaboration. And what I mean by active collaboration, you can look at it in 3 ways. So there's the data sharing, and there's the feedback loop. And again, there's the joint co-creation. And lastly, there's also now capacity, you know, building. So if I start with data sharing and feedback loop. So for example, if CG is able now, you know, has been able to come up with a research maybe on a disease outbreak, and or any kind of value chain, or any kind of maybe new research, we should be able to get that as partners. We should be able to be fed that information as soon as possible, so that we can be able even to deliver value to our end customers. So for me and for us as Shamba, what we think, besides now the partnership of just shared goals, is also that active collaboration, whereby when there's a new occurrence or there's a new development, we're able now even to get that development, as well as we're able maybe
to deliver that value to end consumers or the end producers. These are the farmers. At the same time, even as a partner, we can be able also to give you more insights so that you can be able even to know what to concentrate on when you're doing now even maybe further studies and further research. Besides that, I'm looking at whereby co-creation. I put it a bit far. Yeah, I hope you can still hear me. Yeah, good. So besides now the data sharing and feedback loop, the other part is how can we jointly create or develop a solution together? Because once we develop a solution together, that means we'll be on the same page, as well as we'll be able to deliver the value at a higher level. And then we'll be able to test out even the different, let's say, technologies. We'll be able to test out the different feedback on a real-time basis. So you don't have to do things independently and then wait maybe for our own feedback for maybe that can even take a longer time, can even take years. But you can imagine if you have developed a solution together, then you'll be able maybe to get more information, or you'll be able to get more insights on a real-time basis quicker, and then you'll be able to have more of a quick reaction rather than a delayed kind of reaction. The other part of a successful maybe partnership is the capacity building. So, and the capacity building is to make sure that at each and every level, the partners that you're working with are in a place whereby they can be able now to communicate the different, let's say.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So, so for us, we.
Sharing is part of it.
Yeah,
I can see data sharing as one of the bottlenecks.
Yeah, data sharing is one of the biggest, and then I'll say now the lack of now co-developing solutions of joint development. Yeah, I think that's the further insights I have on that. Yeah.
This is what I got from you, right? Like data sharing is an issue, right? Now, how to get a consensus sometimes that could be a bottleneck in order to establish like a successful partnership. And I can totally understand, from the digital perspective. Yeah. Thank you, George.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. The system is not static. The system is dynamic. So we initiated innovation platform. Innovation platform actors along the value chain, but it was difficult to move. So we support from the ICRA projects. I can't just mention today, he made a presentation. We were able to partner with some stakeholders to give more information to the innovation platform. The partners that we had, ICRA was there to give climate information services. We also got information about the soil water information services, then market information system, especially the markets. Along the value chain, it is easier to pull than to push. So once the market is there, it pulls. So we discovered from the failure we had, where we were just acting with the traditional producers, processors, then the marketing was not really active. So we noticed that the farmers were in need of information, weather information. They were in need of water and soil information. They were in need of a market information system. That's one that worked. Then secondly, for partnership, don't partner for just for partnership purpose. The partnership is to build, for synergy, also to improve on what you're doing. So you have to define role and responsibility. So we had a challenge in the past. Now in West Africa, the seed sector is moving so well because CORAF is the technical arm of ECOWAS. CORAF, ECOWAS, and SEALS, they are promoting the seed system harmonization policy in West Africa, where ECOWAS is handling the policy aspect, CORAF is handling the technical aspect, then SEALS is handling the climatic information. So for the movement of seeds from one country to the next, ECOWAS handles that. What about training and production of certified seed? CORAF handles that. Then information about the weather, climate, it is SEALS. The IFDC is there about the fertilizer. Then international water management system is there about the moisture content. So in the past, you don't just partner for partnership sake, but you partner and define the rules and the responsibility of action, everyone. Then with the CG system, it was difficult. Before one CG came on board, we have been struggling to work together. CG, I work with CG, I work with IIT for 21 years. Yeah. So initially we got a project where we had to bring partners and work together. The first challenge was Each center has its own overhead. Each center. How do we harmonize overhead? It was difficult. That was the first challenge we had. Then secondly was reporting shared and system. Each center has its own reporting format. But since we're reporting to one donor, we had to harmonize the reporting formats. Then one center has to lead. How we other center report their financial expenses and technical reporting to one center. So those were challenges we experienced, but now with the failure we had during that time, we are now trying to improve and to ask all the centers, please, can we harmonize our overheads? You know, it was very challenging, and I think it is the first way to go. And also the reporting style, you know, even MIE, they have different tools and approaches to collect information and data, but we all need to submit all this information to the same donor. But institutes, they have their different reporting style. I'll give you an example, even of the different tools that people use. Yeah? They use different tools, but at the end, the result, the outcome are the same. But you know, it makes things more complex if we don't harmonize our tools and approach. You talk about scaling. There are different approaches and different models. So if we don't harmonize our models and approaches on how to scale, it becomes challenging. I'll tell you, I went to Nigeria, I met a lady. She was producing bananas and processing and selling. She said, oh, Emmanuel, one NGO came here and said, I should not boil banana. Boiling will take away the nutrient. One other woman said, oh, they say we should not fry. Frying will take away nutrient. We should not roast. How then are we going to consume banana? So communications will also be looked into. Yeah, the information we pass should be information that is really, we sit as one person and agree what type of information are we passing to the beneficiary. Even the fertilizer, you look at maize, see me, they have their rates different. Yeah, yes, they have their rates different, they have the application rate different, you know, they'll tell you, no, if you can fertilize during rainy season, somebody say, no, water will wash the fertilizer. So information sharing should be harmonized, data collection should be harmonized, overheads should be harmonized. So I think there are many other challenges that I think we should think about. How do we work in serious?
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate this. Awesome. You know, this is super, super nice. You know, like I got this feedback in be so honest about us. And, you know, like you made me think about there's a probably IC is familiar with FLAR, right? FLAR is like a continent-wide growers association in Latin America. They reach to 20 farmers, 20 countries. So I was talking to the director, he's here, and in the Science Week, he was telling me, I remember like 10 years ago, we were working together and we were kind of forced him to acknowledge one of the CG portfolio at the time, right? It was the CRP CCAPs. Daisy was one of the one, pushing us very hard. You have to acknowledge CCAPs and CCAPs. And he insisted, look, that's your mess, right? I will acknowledge the center. The center will stay there. You guys keep changing every 4 years. So he was super honest. And to be in, he was right at that time, right? Because not many people remember about the previous portfolio. We don't know that much, you know, about the things that you guys have to go through, you know, because we are working towards outcome. That's the way how we know that we can have some impact. But it's true, you know, there are so many things that you guys you don't need to go through all of that. So thank you very much. I was supposed to, you know, wrap up once we finish all the questions, but it's impossible to try to do it. And thank you also for telling about the data, right? Because it is true, you know, for climate information, there is available public environmental information, soils as well, but markets, come on. I mean, what is the information available? So thank you so much. Now I have a question.
Oh, well, just a comment to get on that. I actually, on the airplane here, read an 85-page report comparing the different reporting systems of the various CG centers and programs. So 85 pages comparing the different systems. So I think we have a long way to go, but we're working on it, hopefully. But yeah, I concur. I think it's overly complicated. Thank you.
Okay, Mohamed, now more stories.
And just a point on this, in this comparison of 85 programs, but also in the CGIAR, you have got programs in a different time scale that you need to look at, and what are these transitions you're going to have. So I mentioned to you that ICA is working in 24 countries, and it's a very heterogeneous environment. If we go to the Caribbean region, in terms of scale that we work in agriculture, it's very different. If you go to the Southern Cone, which we've seen more advances in terms of how they advance in the food systems that we're working on. So a specific example that you asked me to give is that we are working on recovery of degraded pastures, which that's a big challenge in Latin America. As you know, there's a large percentage of pastures that are degraded. And working a regional approach in Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica, where the whole agroecological context is different. The political and socioeconomic environments are also different. So we find challenges in some of the countries like Honduras where the capacity, the organization capacity of the farmers were weak, which affected the adoption of improved technologies that we're having. The extension services, I still think that the whole extension services collapse. We need a different model of extension service, a more rural approach. And there's where ICA has been working to see how we work integrating youths in the extension services using digital tools for scaling up technologies, but also working with rural leaders to see how they can champion and work and have impacts on a scale in the work that we work on. But also there were little incentives in Honduras compared to Guatemala and Costa Rica that we were working on. And therefore, when we look at indicators of change, you can see the relationships between where are the good enabling conditions in terms of incentives, affordable credits for investments, and better extension services, the adoption rate for improving practices for degraded pasture lands was much better compared to the pilot areas that we're working in Honduras. Of course, these are learning experiences of how can you redesign and what do you need to take and look at all those ways of how do you design these programs and to have more impacts at scale. And on top of that, the policy environment, we need to look at the policies that we work on for the Ministry of Agriculture. How do you look at the policies for providing good seed materials to the farmers and make that available at a cheap cost?
Thank you, Mohamed. I know that I'm not supposed to express my opinion on this, right? But now that you mentioned like digital tools, youth, and countries with different contexts, like one thing that CG learned, in order to avoid those failures is that incorporating something that Daisy mentioned earlier, which is the human-centered design aspect. Because we were about to fail with some tools that we were developing, and thanks God, we started to work more with human-centered design to bring the user at the center of the innovations, because the way that the path that we were taking at the time, it was like, can us to develop some digital technology that were not probably be adopted by the youth. Catherine.
Thank you, Daniel. I think that question was is really a good one because for me that's introspection, looking at indeed what didn't work, and I hope now that I can confidently say out of this Science Week, I hope some of these things that didn't work, I hear comments on what can be done differently, what can be done better, can be taken up so that, yes, after the 1 week of being here, some things may move and may be done better. So for us, I think with the few examples that I've used, I can highlight 3 things that I think points out to things that can be done better, what really didn't work. And I was taking note when you asked that question, and I'd like to start with capacity constraints. I think this is one of the things that we realized that, yes, when we are doing, the consortia and using those examples, still, when we are going to some seed companies, which are really local seed companies, they don't have the capacity, technical capacity to be able to do the production, to be able to do the multiplication. So clearly that was one of the areas where we quickly had to, through partnerships also, try to get some experts who can try to not only train, but also showcase how this has worked in different parts of the continent. I'm very pleased to see CORAF here because we've had quite a lot of exchange between East and West Africa, learning from each other, peer-to-peer education, so to say. So this is one of the areas that I think we recognized there was quite a gap when it comes to capacity, but nonetheless, there's some measures that we've been able to put in place. Secondly is on communication. Clearly, and again, going back to innovation, because that is one of the themes that we are focusing on in this week. We have realized, again, through the different partnerships that we've had through the different consortia, that bringing an innovative idea, technology, variety to the farmers, you have to accompany it with communication. There are instances where we have had to train, carry out farmer awareness trainings, and also some seed companies trainings to let them know what's the difference from between a hybrid and I don't know, just an open pollinated variety, for example, genetically modified organisms versus the genome edited products. So some of these things, they are so high, in science, we may assume as scientists that this is a good product. People are going to embrace it. We're going to, take care of food security. We're going to cover the climate challenges that we're having with the growing population in the continent. But if we don't explain, if we don't really communicate, it's not so obvious to most of the, not only farmers, but also some seed companies to embrace these technologies and innovation. And this also ties me in to mention that, when it comes to communication, there's also that aspect of capacity building and building trust, because once we are able to be trusted, I mean the private sector, it becomes easy for a farmer to take on an innovation or a variety. So that has also been a challenge that we've had to tackle. And finally, on regulations, I think using the example that we had earlier this afternoon, we have seen in some countries that we have some innovative technologies, we have some varieties that are getting into the market thanks to the partnerships and the consortia that we've tried to encourage and develop. But sometimes the policies, the regulations in some of these countries are not necessarily conducive. So what does that mean? It means that a technology, and I'd like to borrow an example from earlier this afternoon on potatoes that was introduced in one of the East African countries. After 8 years, this potato is still not available to the farmers. And I mean, we saw that it's taking care, or at least it's answering to some of the pests and diseases. A farmer may potentially lose 100% of the crop, but still this variety is not available to the farmers. Why is that the case? It's because of regulations and policies. So again, this is a main challenge, regulatory hurdles and barriers that don't make it easy for innovative technologies as well as varieties to reach the farmers. So this has been one of the challenges. And as I conclude on that, I'd like to also highlight that we are working very closely with the REX as well as the African Union, because there's this aspect of harmonized seed regulations in the continent. CORAF has highlighted that they are having some harmonized seed regulations. But for us, where we still see a gap and an area of potentially improvement is implementation of these harmonized regulations. So clearly, we have on paper very good harmonized regulations. Yes, this is the direction we should go, but how is it being implemented? How easy, for example, is it to move? How easy is it to move a seed variety from Kenya to Uganda, as an example? Will the government bodies in Uganda trust what the government bodies in Kenya have done? So we have, and using that as an example, because there's a COMESA harmonized regulations, but the implementation bit is where we still see that, there's some gaps and potentially we need to improve. So yes, partnerships are somehow working, but there has been some, challenges and sometimes some frustration points, but nonetheless, we are making progress. We are trying to engage those who are responsible to make sure that, yes, at the end of the day, the African farmers benefit from all these innovations and technologies. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for that retrospection and also to let us know, those areas of improvement. You talk about sharing experiences, the communication, the regulations. And that's definitely some areas where we can do much better. So it's been already half an hour. Obviously, for me, it's been like 5 minutes because I'm having so much fun being here as the moderator of the panel. So I have many other questions. I'm not following the script. This is something that I promised to the panelists. Like, let's not follow the script. Let's just see how it flows. But we have some questions, for instance, in the chat. So I would like to ask the question from the chat, and also if you guys have questions, and then before to close the session, I can still retake some of the questions that we planned. Nora?
All right, so there's one question. I think it might be for you, Catherine, but other people can also take it. Due to the lack of trust, knowledge sharing among the private sectors in a specific value chain, there's no dot or comma, so it's a bit hard. In a specific value chain may be an issue leading to competition. How can we go around this issue for sustainable innovation adoption?
Yeah, thanks for that. And it's good to know that innovation is allowing us to interact with people online. So not only people in the room, but those who are online. Yeah, so I mentioned bypassing the issue of competition and trust. But again, we as an association, the Africa Sea Trade Association, we represent competitors. We have companies that are competing to the market. So you may wonder, how have we managed to have them together nonetheless, even if they're competitors? We bring them in the room, discuss pertinent issues when it comes to trade, when it comes to seed movement. So how have we managed to do that? One thing that I would like to clearly highlight is we have a code of conduct. In the sense that when you become a member of AFSTA, there's a code of conduct that you have to assign to. And in this code of conduct, there's do's and don'ts. So how do we do business? Because at the end of the day, we need to build that environment of trust. If you build an environment of trust by being professional and agreeing on what are you supposed to do, what are you not supposed to do, sticking to that, I think that has really helped us. So Nora, I think for me, this is one of the areas or one of the ways that I can highlight as a way that we have built trust, and we've made competitors sit in a room, closed door room, discuss things that are very, sensitive, but nonetheless trust that it's not going to break the bridges, but rather build more bridges. So code of conduct is one of the things that I would like to see. But I'd like to hear maybe from the rest if they have any comments.
Right.
Yeah, Mohammed.
Yeah, I think that's one of the questions you have of what are the barriers for private sector cooperation. I think that the question of competition is there, but also branding. Many with this private sector have their brands, be it Nestle or whatever. The private sector is looking at the marks and protection of the brands that they're working on. But also the question of property rights. That's also another issue that really is a barrier for promoting that. But also ICA has been working on the concept of bioeconomy, and we see complementarities where we see forging cooperation between the private sectors. An example of working in the biofuels where we have the private sector organizations working on sustainable biofuels, whereas we have private sector also engaged within the same value chains working on livestock, use of byproducts for livestock feed, but also for biogas production and bioenergy, and also biofertilizers. That's an area where ICA has been working now on promoting more regulatory framework for bioinputs and to promote more cooperation private to private sector. Also, we're working with the big and the large farmers organizations that are representing the small farmers. For example, APRESID in Argentina is representing more than 3,000 small farmers working on zero tillage, but also adopting the whole concept that we're promoting on living soils and advancing on the low carbon agriculture systems in alliance with the private sector organizations like Bayer, with PepsiCo. These are some of the examples of the private sector organizations we've been working with.
Yeah, to me, I think the only way to avoid competition is to define role and responsibility. You can't work with everybody. Once you have a project, you have your partners, you define their roles and responsibility, you avoid competition. Then for trust, nobody will trust until there's an evidence. If I don't have an evidence, I won't trust you. So if there's no evidence, it's good to do demonstration. Let people see that, okay, it works, then they can easily adopt. Thank you.
Yeah, I share the same sentiments with the panel, whereby I believe to work effectively and to avoid the issue of maybe competition is to be able now to have a good code of conduct, as well as maybe setting maybe the right objectives, and also making sure that each and every partner is able to know what they're supposed to do. And just maybe to emphasize more what works maybe on private to private kind of partnership is whereby each and every partner is able maybe to complement the other. So for example, you're bringing a particular strength. For us being a digital company, maybe you can also partner with an insurance company to offer maybe a solution to the farmers. So that way we're able to complement each other without even having major barriers. Besides that, also having the same, let's say, market goals, also that can be able to help to be able now to less the friction in terms of now who is supposed to do what kind of information is being laid out there. So it's just having a good, proper code of conduct, as well as trying also maybe to complement each other. Yeah.
Thank you. You're really particularly fascinated with this private to private corporations that actually we know that we're thinking like, yeah, exactly. So Nora, what I'm thinking is like maybe I am, well, okay. It's like a question from the audience. Sure. Or you can use that mic, I guess.
Oh, I think it's clear. Thank you. My name is David Dungo. I'm a researcher, but I'm also a farmer. I just wanted to Shamba records. Normally, it's reported that so many farmers, 20,000, 40,000, are using digital tools. And normally, I know we know about this because I think it's a requirement maybe from the donor. It's one of your KPIs. But really, for some of us on the ground, this is not actually the case. So are you really, really sure? For example, in your case, you mentioned you are using 40,000 farmers are using your technology, but really, is that the case on the ground? Or maybe even just to phrase it again, how many, for example, if you did not have donor support, how many farmers would actually go into their pockets and buy your technology? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dongo. That's a very important question, and so Shamba Records, how we work, we have two types of customers. The primary customer is the farmer, who also who consumes our solution through a very localized approach, whereby they can be able to dial a USSD code, or they can be able to send a text message. The secondary customer is the cooperatives or the aggregators. So how we go to the market is we're able now to digitize these cooperatives or these farmer groups. And the reason why we digitize these farmer groups is that we can be able now to unlock other benefits. And for one example is being financial benefits. Remember, when these cooperatives or when these farmers take these goods to the cooperatives, they're not paid immediately. And for example, if I'm a coffee farmer, I have to wait for 5 months to be able to get my payment. So within those 5 months, I expect to feed let's say my family, I expect to provide farm labor, I expect as well as to buy maybe inputs to be able now to make sure that my farming practice is still ongoing. So you see there's a gap on that. And if that farmer walks to a bank or maybe a circle, they'll be asked to provide maybe the relationship or any historic data so that they can be able maybe to be given credit or they be able to be given a loan. And not so many farmers have their records in place. So for us, we just provide a very simple tool, a data keeping tool that these farmers can be able now to use to be able even to unlock credit. In this case, we've been able to work with coffee farmers in Kiambu. We've been able to work with tea farmers as well as we've been able to provide other services to these farmers. So in our case, in fact, you'll be shocked. Most of our revenue, it's not even from donor or grants support. Most of our revenue are coming from these farm organizations. And I will just give you a case in Kiambu whereby the average farmer is about 45 years old. And that is, if the average farmer is about 45 years old, that means they are literate enough to be able even to consume any kind of technology. And don't also you witness with me and also, let me ask you, in your village, do people use M-Pesa? Do they use mobile money?
Yes, okay. M-Pesa we do, yes, M-Pesa we do. But other technologies, for example, I'm talking about, let's say, for example, a farmer going to his field and trying to recognize if is there a disease on this. You know, those kind of apps that the technology people say that farmers are using. And maybe they are not even, even to identify what kind of insect, those kind of technologies. I'm just asking, and anybody else can answer the same question.
Okay, great. Before I hand over to my colleague, so for us, we have a very unique approach. Sometimes we don't have even to wait for the farmer to give us that information. We prompt the farmer. So like if we find there's an inactive rate, let's say within a month or within 2 weeks, we're able to prompt the farmer. Have you been able to harvest? Have you been able to apply inputs? Have you reported any diseases cases? So that becomes more of a proactive approach rather than waiting for the farmer just to be able to give us that data. But
I cannot avoid to make this comment on this, right? I'm from Latin America, and every time you go to Latin America and you say that in Africa, even cooperatives, they use digital money. It's like you guys are in the future. Yeah, the technological leapfrogging, he was like, wow. I mean, like, we don't have still that, right? So I'm always impressed by the way how the technological leapfrogging in terms of digital money has been happening in Africa.
Yeah, thank you very much. Your observation, I'm okay with you. It's correct. It falls in the line with what I said. We should harmonize our models and approaches. Your sampling is individual sampling. But some people will say cooperative about 1,000 persons. If the cooperative is making use of the tools, 1,000 farmers are adopted. See, it's the methodology we have to approve, to me. So the second aspect is the type of survey. Is it a survey you are doing or a census? We have to harmonize. If not, the results will not be standard. You go to a farmer organization, you've trained, you pass information, one person is using out of 300, you say, okay, there are 300 farmers have adopted technology. No. So it's for us to agree what are the approach we are going to use, what are the methodology we are going to use to ensure that the sampling type and size are uniform. To me, that's the way to go. You don't say, oh, somebody is doing survey, another person is doing census. They have 1 million farmers, they've adopted cassava variety. No, I don't think it should be the way we have to do it. We have to improve and make things go better. Thank you.
Well, I agree with what my colleague said about standardization of the tools that we use to have a common indicators that you're going to use for comparisons. I see that the use of digital tools is moving in an exponential way in terms of how people are accessing that. Of course, there are problems with connectivity. There are problems still that we need to solve in terms of the cover that we have in some of the areas. ICA has a program that is called the Digital Week for Agriculture. And I think in September, we're going to have that, in which we are increasing the training to the farmers and also to the organizations to use these tools. Besides, we have set up an innovation lab to expose more the farmers and all the groups and leaders into more use of more modern tools for applications on record keeping, on also looking at disease and pests and whatever. So I think we need to continue cultivating this experience and working with them in this area.
Yeah, just also in agreement with what has been said by the panelists here, but I would like to just have an additional input. Yes, indeed, the methodology matters, the approach that we look at really matters, but I also don't want to discount the power of associations. And in this case, I think also, not because I'm from an association, but in Africa, we have different farmers association, the Pan-African Farmers Organization, the East Africa Farmers Federation, and all these other regional farmer association. And there, I think, to your question, is it really representative of all the farmers? I, again, not speaking from the authority of the farmers organization, I think I've interacted with this farmers organization, and there's quite a turnover of the participants in that organization. It's more of young farmers, people who are eager to embrace innovations, people who are eager to look at what technologies can solve challenges, people who are eager to check at AI, precision agriculture, what are we doing on all this here in Africa? I mean, I'm impressed by Daniel, what you've said, that we are living in the future in Africa because of this money, we are able to do money transfer. I mean, there are things that are happening in the continent, and you see some of these farmer organization with their members already embracing this. So yes, the methodology matters, but also being part of an association as a farmer also adds value, because then if there's something new that is coming up, chances of you receiving or chances of this trickling down to you at the grassroots level is really high. So this is just an additional point that I wanted to bring. Thank you.
Good. Do we have another question from? Sure.
Very brief comment. ICA every 2 years leads in a study jointly with IDB, with Microsoft, Oxford University, among others. And the last result is that 76 million in the rural areas of Latin America and the Caribbean don't have access to connectivity, whereas in the urban areas, 79 people is having connectivity. So unfortunately, the bad news is that the gap is widening. Meantime, we are pretending that agriculture be a knowledge-intensive sector. So we are in a dilemma, and it's necessary to deepen the path for a modernization process in rural areas of Latin America and the Caribbean.
You can use your mic. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Orondo Oroko, and I have a question. My question goes to George. George, what are some of the existing policy frameworks that accelerated your success, and how do they compare in the two nations or two countries that you are operating in? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So I would say our success rate is on two things. The first thing is on the financial gap. As you know, farming itself, it's very capital intensive. And the reason why even the farmers use our solution is that financial incentive, because they know if they're able to keep their records there, we'll be able now to help them to score them, as well as they'll be able now to access credits, not only maybe through us, also maybe through other external financiers. So number one is now the incentive of the financing part. So they don't just use it for because no farmer will just give you the data for the sake of giving you that data. There has to be an incentive for them to be able now to give you that kind of data. And the incentive is being now, they can be able now to unlock our financing. And some studies have been done, like in 2020, I think only 4% of the total commercial credits went to farmers. So that's leaving a whole, maybe like a whole 98%, whereby they cannot be able now to access financial resources. Number two, we have been able to bundle more incentives, not only the financing part, we're also looking at how we can be able now to help farmers participate in what we call carbon markets. And how they participate in carbon markets is being able to work maybe the NGOs or companies that do agroforestry. And this, when they participate in such kind of programs, they're able now to they're able now to unlock, or they're able now to participate in the carbon markets, and they can be able to earn carbon credits. So not only now the incentive of finance and carbon credit, but also there's the incentive of now they can be able now to unlock kind of other benefits that will lead now to their success. And to be honest, as even Domo said, there are challenges out there in the market. And you cannot just develop a solution there and expect just a farmer to use it. But it has to be incentivized so that people can be able to adopt it and can be able to see the reason behind the solution. Yeah.
Comparing Kenya and Uganda, is there any contrast between the two countries, or your solutions work across? It's the same?
Of course, there's a huge difference. Kenya, there's a high adoption rate. And reason being, most of these, even farm organizations, they're embracing technology. So, and again, there's a lot more training, and many people are more literate in Kenya. So the literacy levels here are a bit high. So that means people can be able to consume, and they can be able now to use the product more. And we see a high activity rate in Kenya compared now to Uganda.
Thank you, George. I think that we only have time for one more question from you, and hopefully for one of the panelists, and then we can wrap up because we're already running out of time.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Emmanuel from Agroecology Global Network. I just want to allude from the presentation we made that was made in the morning, in line with what Muhammad has just said, that we all agree that we need to take the information to the farmer. That is our target. But we can now agree that we have that gap. We don't have enough change agents to take the information, and that is why you've just said that we need to bring the youths into the board to help to disseminate the information. what is that one thing that you would advise, especially for my government, Kenya, to do in order for us to bring more youths on board that will help will help all the extension officers that are exiting to gain that trust from the farmers, because they tend to trust those that have been in existence in the field than those that are coming in. What is that one thing that would advise us? Thank you.
Sorry, Well, I was surprised that you mentioned that the age of farmers are 47 years here. I think that outside in Latin America, the average age may be about 60 years. So you can see we have an aging population. And of course, youths, we think that in terms of what do you do in the policies for promoting youths, how do you have the technical schools reactivated? We think in Latin America, we're seeing the schools, we're working on looking at the technical schools, looking at the curriculum development. I still think at the university, we need to transform this university curriculum development program towards something that is more systemic, that is understanding what are the nexus in agriculture with the environment, with climate change, and understanding all these concepts, but also the applications. We also have been working with the governments, for example, in Costa Rica to promote incubators in which youths are working to provide them with training, or also that they're working in the process, learning and to look at business entrepreneurship and applying the basic knowledge that they learned from these technical schools towards developing an enterprise that are more successful, but also how do they manage the risk factors, how do you do good investments, markets, and these are some of the tech areas that we've been working on in terms of youths. ICA has a program that is focused on youths, and it has been there already more than 10 years. It is working with already good impacts of we working on. I think that example can be applied here.
Yeah, so thank you for that question. What I would like to say is not to advise the government, but to ask the youth. I'm taking myself part of it. Honestly, we have, when you're given the chance to be to take on a responsibility by the government, by in any fora, make sure that you do your best. Let me just go to really at a personal level, because more often than not, why old farmers or farmers trusting extension officers that have been there for the past 20, 30 years and not you, is because sometimes we just want to run, do the thing quickly, and then go. So I think that it boils down to personality. We must make sure that not only are you being professional, but also you have the passion, enthusiasm to make a change. Because again, not a pep talk, but Africa, it's us to come up with homegrown solutions. And we Africans, especially the young Africans, are the ones to bring the change. So I think at the end of the day, indeed, the governments have a role to play. They have to give the opportunity for the youth to participate in policies, to be part of the policies. But we, the young people, also have to prove that we can be trusted. So again, throwing back the ball to us on that. And just to conclude, there are so many opportunities for the youth to get into agriculture because now it's no longer the old school type of agriculture, quote unquote, but there's quite a lot of innovation that is coming into agriculture. We have young agriculture techniques, technologies. Look at what Shamba Records is doing. So we can try to tie in innovation, information technology, and all this AI into agriculture and still be able to be relevant, still be able to respond to climate change, food security, and all these challenges that we currently have. So I think this is a two-way traffic. The government does its part. We have to do our part. Thank you.
I had earlier mentioned about, we have to categorize our technology. What is the benefit of that technology? Is it economical? Is it social? Is it environmental? If you want to promote the technology, you should know the benefit of the technology. Is it for economic purpose? Is it social purpose? Is it for environmental purpose? Agroecology is environmental. It's a long term. No youth will invest in agroecology. I cannot invest. My parents, my grandparents will invest and plant trees that will harvest in the next 25 years. I harvested trees that my father planted, but he's of late. I will not take that risk at my age now with the needs I need to plant a tree that somebody will harvest in 40 years. So what is the benefit of what I am doing? Is it for economic purpose, social, or environmental? So, the typologies differ. It's need for you to categorize what typology of stakeholders am I working with, and what are the benefits of the technology I'm promoting. Thank you.
Good. Thank you so much. It's already 6 p.m. We're thinking to follow the script and to follow the set of list of questions. But it's been amazing. It's been amazing, and we ended up talking about youth. We ended up talking about, you mentioned sharing experiences, and I can tell, for instance, to my colleagues in ICA, that CGIAR has been organizing some diploma courses on digital agriculture. And I'm sure that you're probably not aware of it in Latin America, but this is actually the space for improvement, right? How can we work together on that? How can we learn from those experiences from Latin America and take it to Africa and the other way around, right? And the CGIAR is super well positioned in that sense. So in order to wrap up, and I'm very sorry for the questions, we also, Nora, we also have questions. Nora, sorry, we also have questions in the chat, right?
So no, I just want to say there's a lot of thank you, amazing session, and thank you to the panelists especially. So want to share that.
So good. So the wrap up for me, before the round of applause for you guys, is in this panel we talk about the success, about successful stories, experiences, partnerships that didn't work as it was intended. We also talk about, we have very valuable CGIAR people for us, for our organization. Many very good takeaway messages from us. Also, we don't have time for retrospection. When you mentioned that, right? And something that I probably we don't have to ask, but I think that we can take also as a takeaway message to think through this. And it is if we look ahead 5 or 10 years, what kind of partnership do we need to start investing in today? Because we learned a lot from the whole session, I will say. And with that, I would like to thank you to the panelists. A round of applause for them. And thank you for staying until 6 p.m. Thank you.
So IMI is having a cocktail reception outside CR4, and please do join us if you're still around as a thank you for staying this long. If you want to go home, that's also fine.